The Interstellar Federation patrol ship Silver Eagle glides in the dark void, like a tired beast, the low hum of the engine echoing in the narrow corridor. Huang Yi wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the data stream on the console. His fingers flew across the touch screen, examining the pulse waveform of the energy core. At the age of 25, he had just graduated from the Federal Engineering College and was assigned to this old patrol ship. Daily routine maintenance made him feel like a screw-tightening robot, boring but stable. Huang Yi, the output of energy module number 3 has dropped by 0.2% again. The voice of old engineer Uncle Lee came from the communicator, with his usual tiredness. Don't let it drop anymore, the captain doesn't like trouble. Understood, Uncle Lee. I'm fine-tuning, Huang Yi replied, his voice steady. He adjusted several parameters, and the curve on the screen rose slightly. The air inside the ship always smelled of metal and engine oil, mixed with the coolness of distant stardust, which reminded him of the green colonial star in his hometown. The air there was sweet, unlike here, which always made people breathless. Suddenly, a piercing alarm tore through the silence. The whole ship's red lights flashed, like blood flowing on the walls. Huang Yi's heart skipped a beat. He gripped the console and an emergency notification popped up on the screen, Energy Crisis Alert. The core reactor is overloaded and the shield energy is reduced to 15%. Border rebel signal approaching. Damn it. Huang Yi cursed in a low voice, and the ship trembled violently. From outside the corridor came the shouts of soldiers and the rapid beat of boots. The energy crisis is not news. The resources of the Federation's colonial planets are depleted, the fleet's protective shield is already stretched thin, and now the rebel bastards are taking advantage of the situation. Huang Yi rushed out of the engineering cabin and ran towards the main control room. On the way, he encountered several crew members, who were pale and holding laser rifles in their hands. Engineer Huang. The rebel reconnaissance plane has locked onto us, a young soldier shouted, his voice trembling in the alarm. Huang Yi nodded, his mind spinning rapidly. The collapse of the protective shield means that the fleet is exposed to the particle cannon. This is not a small trouble, but a disaster. He pushed open the door of the main control room, and there was chaos inside. The captain stood in front of a holographic projection, which showed red dots of rebels approaching like wolves. Report. The energy system is unstable and the shield cannot last 5 minutes. Uncle Lee shouted from the console next to him, his fingers tapping the keyboard like raindrops. Huang Yi squeezed forward and scanned the data. The energy flow is like a broken river, chaotic. He caught a glimpse of the locker in the corner. There were fragments of ancient ruins recovered from the desolate starfield a few days ago. A black stone piece as big as a fist, with strange runes engraved on its surface, shining with a faint blue light. He had heard rumors when he was in the academy that those ruins were the remnants of ancient civilizations and might contain lost technologies. But now, who cares? The ship's hull shook again, the rebels' lead gunfire grazed the hull, and sparks exploded outside the portholes. Huang Yi gritted his teeth, reached out and grabbed the rune fragment, and wanted to use it to smash open the spare energy cabin door next to it. Maybe he could make do with some repairs. The moment his fingers touched the stone, an electric current of heat rushed into his palm and went straight to his mind. The world seemed to stand still. The runes unfolded before Huang Yi's eyes, spinning as if they were alive. The ancient lines turned into formulas and poured into his thoughts, circulating energy field, infinite feedback module. Input low-order particles and output high-density shield waves. This is not an illusion. He understood instantly this was the secret of the ancient energy source, which could revolutionize the protective shield and allow energy to be drawn from the void instead of relying on depleted reactors. Huang Yi! Why are you in a daze? Uncle Lee pushed him, his voice urgent. Huang Yi came to his senses and his eyes lit up. He stuffed the pieces into his pocket and lunged for the console. Uncle Lee, get out of the way. I have a way to restore local energy. Are you crazy? Are you fooling around now? Uncle Lee's eyes widened, but he still gave up his seat. Huang Yi's fingers operated like lightning, and the rune formulas in his mind were automatically converted into codes. He entered a new set of parameters, borrowing the blue light pulse from the debris, bypassing the overloaded core, and directly extracting energy from the vacuum particles on the outer surface of the ship. The screen flickered, the data curve pulled back from the edge of collapse, and the local shield energy jumped to 40%. "Oh my God, it's stable," Uncle Lee murmured, staring at the screen as if he saw a ghost. The crew members in the main control room erupted into low shouts, and the tense air eased slightly. Huang Yi felt a warm current surge in his chest. He used to be just a hard-working engineer, but now, this golden finger gave him hope. The confusion deep in my heart receded like the tide. It turns out that I can change everything. But the crisis is far from over. On the holographic projection, 3 rebel reconnaissance planes swooped in like a ferocious swarm. Their laser blasts cut through the darkness and hit the stern of the ship, rocking the ship violently. "Alarm upgrade, hull damaged. Construction machinery starts. Huang Yi, go and drive the plug-in machine. Fight off those flies," the captain shouted, turning to order the soldiers. "Everyone is in position." Huang Yi nodded, grabbed his helmet and rushed to the hangar. The door of the engineering cabin slid open, revealing his old partner, a multifunctional engineering robotic arm equipped with a laser cutter and thruster. He jumped into the cockpit, and the mechanical arm buzzed to life. Through the porthole, he saw the rebel aircraft approaching like a ghost, and the red scanning beam swept across the hull. "Come on, you scum," Huang Yi whispered, pushing the joystick. The mechanical arm ejected and floated in the vacuum outside the ship. With the understanding of the runes still echoing in his mind, he had an idea and injected part of the energy formula into the mechanical auxiliary system, converting the cutting laser into a pulse shield and increasing the propulsion speed at the same time. The first reconnaissance plane pounced, firing its laser directly. Huang Yi dodged sideways, and the shield of the mechanical arm blocked the attack with a buzzing sound, and sparks bounced off. With a backhand strike, the laser cutter slashed down like a sharp blade. The engine of the rebel plane exploded and turned into a fireball rolling in the void. "First one," he shouted, and his voice was transmitted back to the ship through the communication, causing cheers. The second one came around from the flank. Huang Yi accelerated, his robotic arm stretched out like a giant claw, grabbing the opponent's wings. The formula flashed in his mind. He injected an energy pulse, and the mechanical arm burst into blue light, throwing the reconnaissance plane away and crashing into the third one. The 2 planes collided, sending debris flying. Huang Yi gave the final blow, and the laser swept across the wreckage, cleanly. All rebel planes were wiped out. Huang Yi did a great job. The captain's approval came from the communicator, and the chaos was mixed with applause. Huang Yi drove the robotic arm back to the hangar, his back soaked with sweat. He took off his helmet and leaned against the bulkhead, panting. At this moment, he was no longer the unknown engineer. He showed his talents and protected the fleet. Determination surged in my heart. My home can't be destroyed like this. I have to find more. The hangar door opened and a figure walked in. She is a woman with short hair and a slim figure wrapped in the uniform of a federal intelligence officer. She glanced at Huang Yi and raised her lips slightly. "Engineer Huang? I'm Wang Jing, from the intelligence team. I was stunned by your operation in the control room just now. The rune fragments, how did you do it?" Huang Yi was stunned and wiped his forehead. "Wang Guan. Well, it was purely luck. When I touched that stone, I suddenly understood something. The ancient energy source can repair shields." Wang Jing approached and handed over a data tablet. Her eyes were as sharp as stars, and her voice was low but warm. "Luck? Don't be modest. The rebel base is in the border asteroid belt, and their energy stealers are aimed at the Federation's weaknesses. I have preliminary information. The base is protected by an old-fashioned particle shield, but there are traces of ancient ruins. Your runes may be the key." Huang Yi took the tablet and scanned the map. The rebels' red spots spread like cancer, and his heart beat faster. Wang Jing came closer and lightly touched his arm with her shoulder. "Listen, Huang Yi. This is not a solo battle. The fleet needs people like you. I will provide clues and you will crack the technology. we will join forces to sneak into the base and steal their blueprints. Her words were like fire, igniting Huang Yi's determination. He looked at Wang Jing's firm eyes and an inner monologue flashed through him. I always felt insignificant in the past, but now, with partners and abilities, I can't back down. Okay, Wang Jing. Deal. But we have to investigate the ruins first. The ruins are not just this one, I feel there are more mysteries waiting. Wang Jing nodded and smiled, then let's set off. The interstellar crisis will start to reverse from here. Huang Yi clenched his fists and looked out the window at the endless sea of stars. The Silver Eagle's engines hummed again, heading towards the unknown and desolate star field. The small shuttle Falcon Shadow ejected from the launch bay of the Silver Eagle, piercing the void like a silver arrow. The low roar of the engine echoed in Huang Yi's ears, mixed with the slight vibration of the metal frame, making him feel like he was being swallowed by the stars. Outside the porthole window, the scene of the desolate star field unfolded like a nightmare. Fragmented meteorites slowly rotated under the dim starlight, gray-black dust clouds floated like ghosts, and occasionally electromagnetic storms flashed blue-purple arcs, illuminating the remains of broken planets in the distance. The air is filled with the pungent smell of ozone, coming from the cabin's filtration system, reminding them of the dangers of this star field. This is the cemetery of ancient civilizations, full of unknown radiation and legacy traps. Huang Yi sat in the passenger seat, holding the armrests with both hands and fixating his eyes on the navigation screen. Wang Jing manipulated the joystick skillfully. Her short hair shone coldly under the instrument light, and her profile was as firm as a knife. Relax, Engineer Huang. This trip is just an adventure, not a direct attack on the rebel lair. She glanced at him, with a hint of teasing in her voice, but she couldn't hide the vigilance in her eyes. Huang Yi smiled and loosened his fingers, but the tension in his heart did not go away. Adventure? It sounds like picking up garbage. But that rune fragment, it makes me feel that what we picked up is not garbage, but a life-saving straw. He touched the stone fragment in his pocket, and the remaining blue light pulsed faintly, as warm as a heartbeat. Ever since he repelled the rebel reconnaissance plane, this thing had been stuck in his mind, and the formulas of the runes were pieced together like a puzzle, urging him to find more. Wang Jing nodded and adjusted the course, allowing the shuttle to bypass a swirling meteorite belt. The air in the cabin was cool and dry. She took a deep breath and said seriously, speaking of life-saving straws, do you know how serious the energy crisis is? The Federation has more than 300 colonial planets, and now at least half of the fleet is paralyzed in the harbor. The green star back home, like you said, those with sweet air, have started to lose power. Children are malnourished, factories are shut down, and farms along the border can't even operate their irrigation systems. Those bastards of the rebels specialize in hijacking energy transport ships, and now their base is like a vampire, devouring the last particle fuel. Her words were like cold star wind, blowing into Huang Yi's chest. He thought of the sunset in his hometown, the golden light that shone on the wheat fields, but now there was probably only darkness. I've heard of it, but I never thought it was that bad. Huang Yi whispered, clenching his fists unconsciously. In his mind, the blue light of the runes suddenly lit up, and his thoughts flooded into him as if responding to his emotions. More lines unfold. It is not a simple energy extraction, but a quantum-level loop inputting weak particles and outputting infinite fields. Goldfinger was awakening, and formulas were pouring out like a flood. He felt his head buzzing, and an illusory grid appeared in his field of vision, analyzing the surrounding spatial structure. Wang Jing, this crisis, can we reverse it? Wang Jing turned to look at him, surprise flashing in her eyes. Looking at you, you seem to have suddenly enlightened. Reversal? What the Federation needs is people like you. Intelligence shows that the rebel leader is gathering a fleet, targeting the central galaxy. If we crack the relic technology, we can revive the shield and let the fleet sweep across the star field like before. She reached out and patted his shoulder, the touch was solid and warm. Huang Yi, don't let your home turn into ruins. Your luck may have been given by God. Her encouragement was like fire, igniting Huang Yi's inner determination. The fusion of rune knowledge accelerated. He closed his eyes for a moment, and his eyes were sharper when he opened them. In the past, he was just an engineer who repaired machinery. Now, this ability allows him to shift from passive response to active control. The shuttle shuddered through the dust cloud and finally reached its target, an asteroid named Remnant 7. The surface is pitted like a honeycomb, with crumbling ancient structures standing in the center. Towering stone pillars are broken and tilted, dust-covered arches are like the bones of giant beasts, and wind-eroded runes glow faintly in the dim light. The air was thin and the radiometer was ticking. Huang Yi put on his protective mask and smelled an old mineral smell mixed with the sourness of metal corrosion. "Watch your step," Wang Jing reminded in a low voice, holding the laser pistol in her hand. She took the lead and jumped out of the hatch, her boots crunching on the soft gravel. Huang Yi followed, holding an engineering scanner, the rune fragments feeling slightly hot in his pocket. They passed through the collapsed arch and entered the interior of the ruins. The empty corridors echoed with the sound of their breathing, and the walls were covered with dense runes, pulsing slightly like living veins. Suddenly, a low buzz sounded. The automatic defense trap was triggered. The ground cracked open, dust flew into the air, and several energy beams shot out from hidden slots, heading straight at them. "Get out of the way!" Wang Jing shouted, pushed Huang Yi away, and rolled towards the side wall. The beam grazed his shoulder, and the searing waves distorted the air. Huang Yi's heart beat like a drum, and the runes in his mind instantly analyzed the pattern of the trap, an ancient induction network, based on the locking of the quantum field. He threw himself against the wall and touched a rune tablet. The blue light exploded and knowledge poured in. The core principle is an infinite loop quantum field generator extracting zero-point energy from the void to form a self-sustaining shield that requires no external fuel and operates continuously. This is not only an energy source, but also a revolutionary technology. "Huang Yi, don't be stunned. Something is coming from behind." Wang Jing's voice came from the communicator, mixed with the sound of gunshots. She opened fire at the end of the corridor, shattering a floating sentinel drone. Sparks flew and illuminated a giant figure standing in the shadows, a guardian mecha, 3 meters high, with a rusty surface but glowing red. Its mechanical arms stretched like a scythe, buzzing as it approached. Its scanning beam swept across the ground, raising a cloud of dust and filling the air with the smell of burnt circuitry. Huang Yi took a deep breath, and a turning point in his growth broke out at this moment. He is no longer an evasive engineer, but a proactive pioneer. With the formula in his mind transformed, he took out the engineering tool from his belt, a portable particle welder, and injected the rune pulse. The blue light spreads along the tool, forming a temporary energy barrier, a translucent quantum field that surrounds the body, buzzing like invisible armor. "Wang Jing, cover me. Go around from the left wing and contain its sensors." "Received." Wang Jing responded, with a hint of excitement in her voice. She jumped up, and the laser shot hit the mecha's joints, causing sparks to explode. The mecha turned and chased her, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Huang Yi took the opportunity to rush forward, and the barrier blocked the mecha's sickle arm. When it collided, the energy wave rebounded like a tidal wave, and the mecha staggered back, sounding a piercing alarm. Huang Yi felt power surge in his body. This was his growth. In the past, he could only repair, but now, he can create. "Hit me," he yelled, switching the welder to high-energy mode and injecting the quantum loop formula. The blue beam shot out, piercing the core of the mecha like a sharp sword. The internal circuit burst, and debris fell like rain. The mecha fell to the ground with a crash, raising a burst of dust, and silence returned to the ruins. Wang Jing ran from the side, panting and patting him on the back. "Oh my gosh, Huang Yi, that barrier you just made was a magical skill. Where did you learn it?" Her eyes were bright, and when the distance got closer, Huang Yi smelled the faint smell of sweat on her hair, mixed with the intelligence officer's refreshing perfume. The two looked at each other, and the air was filled with the warmth of tacit understanding. From stranger partners to trust in battle, this emotional bond quietly deepened. Huang Yi wiped his forehead, and an inner monologue flashed through. "The crisis in my homeland is like a knife hanging from the ceiling. Those nights when the power is cut off, the hungry children. I can't just stay, I can't be passive anymore. We must speed up, crack this quantum field, and let the Federation be reborn. What the runes taught me, he said, his voice firm, is an infinite loop generator that keeps the energy going forever. But we have to hurry, there are more fragments. Just as he was talking, Wang Jing's communicator beeped. She answered with a frown, and her face changed, intercepted the rebel signal. Their probe ship is heading towards this star field, aiming directly at the ruins. Those bastards also know the value of this place, they want to use ancient technology to strengthen their stealing devices. Huang Yi's heart sank, and tension ran through his back like electricity. The small twist made the air more solemn. He glanced around and quickly collected the scattered rune fragments, 3 fist-sized stone fragments, with runes intertwined on the surface like a star map. Damn, they came so fast. Let's take these and retreat. Back to the ship, I started simulating the prototype. Wang Jing nodded, and the two rushed back to the shuttle carrying the fragments. The engine roared, and the Falcon jumped into the void, shaking off the dust cloud behind it. Huang Yi sat in his seat, formulas already running in his mind, the blueprint of the quantum field unfolded in front of his eyes, and his fingers were flying on the portable terminal, simulating the first prototype, a small generator that could provide stable energy for patrol ships. When they returned to the Silver Eagle, the lights of the bridge came towards them. Uncle Li and the captain were waiting, their eyes full of anticipation. Huang Yi, how are you? The captain asked, his voice urgent. There's progress, Huang Yi said, placing the fragments on the table, and blue light illuminated everyone's faces. This can change everything. But the rebels are targeting us, sneaking into their base and stealing the blueprints is the only way. Wang Jing, prepare the intelligence. I will model it, and our plan will start from now on. Wang Jing smiled and made eye contact, let's do it together. The fate of the Interstellar depends on us. Huang Yi nodded, and the simulation curve on the terminal began to beat, indicating that a bigger storm was coming. The lights in the Silver Eagle's engineering cabin were dim, like old light bulbs casting mottled shadows on the metal walls. Huang Yi pushed open the hatch, his steps heavy, holding the 3 rune fragments in his hand. Blue light seeped between his fingers, reflecting his tired but excited face. The air was filled with the smell of burnt engine oil and circuit boards, and the distant reactor hummed like the beating of a heart. He put the fragments on the workbench and took a deep breath. The formulas of quantum fields were still tumbling in his mind, like an unfinished storm. Huang Yi, don't immerse yourself in work. Take a breath first. Wang Jing followed in and closed the door, her voice soft but with a firmness that could not be ignored. She took off her intelligence officer's jacket, revealing her close-fitting combat uniform. Her short hair was slightly messy, and her eyes shone with the cold light of the stars. We just escaped from the ruins, and the rebel probe ship may catch up at any time. Let me take a look at the data first. Huang Yi nodded, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and sat in front of the terminal. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up scans extracted from the fragments. Okay, tell me. I have to model it quickly. Those runes, they are not just an energy source, they contain the upgrade formula for the shield. The cyclic quantum field allows the shield to not only block particle cannons, but also reflect energy and convert it into its own output. Wang Jing leaned against the workbench, took out the data tablet, and projected a holographic map on the screen. The red rebel signal squirmed like a swarm, with the base of the border asteroid field at its center. Look here, she pointed at a dense group of dots, the rebels' energy stealers have been upgraded. They are not simply hijacking ships. Intelligence shows that they dug up a lost technology blueprint from another ruins, a particle accelerator that strengthens the attack fleet. It allows their artillery fire to penetrate our remaining shields and hit the core. The leader, the guy named Iron Claw, is gathering 20 warships, targeting the central supply line. If successful, the Federation's energy chain will be broken. Huang Yi frowned, the blue light of the runes in his mind flashed, and more lines unfolded. Protective shield upgrade. After injecting quantum circulation, the energy density increased 3 times, and the rebound efficiency reached 80%. He felt a wave of heat rising from his palm, and his golden fingers unlocked the secret like a key. Damn it, they are also eyeing ancient technology. But the blueprint, if we can steal it, we can use it in reverse. He muttered and quickly entered the formula into the simulation software. On the screen, a virtual model of a small energy source prototype rotated, the curve jumped from smooth, and the output prediction soared to 300%. Wang Jing came closer and lightly touched his arm with her shoulder. The smell of perfume mixed with sweat brought a touch of warmth. Your head is like a walking library. Before testing the prototype, you must confirm safety. The captain has ordered a full-speed evacuation, but the energy source is unstable and something may happen at any time. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire ship's alarm sounded. The red light flashed, and the lights in the engineering cabin flickered. The communicator blasted Uncle Li's shout, "Huang Yi! The reactor is overloaded. The energy flow collapses, and the entire ship system is about to be paralyzed. The rebel interference wave is coming." Huang Yi's heart sank suddenly and he stood up, the fragments feeling hot in his hands. He rushed to the console, formulas running like lightning in his head. "Wang Jing, help me connect the main energy line." "Uncle Li, don't panic, I'll hold it steady." His voice no longer sounded cautious as an engineer, but as decisive as a leader. After returning from the ruins, he felt like he had changed, no longer just mending screws, but someone who could control the storm. Wang Jing nodded, skillfully opened the bulkhead panel, and connected the backup line. Her fingers were as nimble as dancing, and beads of sweat rolled down the side of her neck. "Hurry up, Huang Yi. The hull is shaking and it feels like it's going to fall apart." Huang Yi embedded the fragments into the prototype model, a fist-sized metal sphere with temporarily transcribed runes engraved on its surface. He injected energy pulses, and blue light exploded, like stars blooming in the palm of his hand. Comprehension of the formula is completed instantly, the quantum field is generated and the infinite loop is initiated. The model buzzed, and energy waves poured out from the sphere and rushed along the lines into the main system. The screen curve is straightened from chaos, and the output skyrockets by 300%. The lights of the whole ship became stable, the roar of the engines became steady and powerful, and the alarm stopped abruptly. "Oh my God!" Uncle Li's voice came from the communicator, with trembling surprise. "The energy is stable. Not only stable, but it also has 20% more output." "Huang Yi, how did you do it?" Outside the engineering cabin, the footsteps of the crew came in the corridor. They pushed open the door and their faces turned from panic to admiration. Uncle Li, an old engineer, was the first to pat Huang Yi on the shoulder. "Boy, from now on, you are not an engineer, you are our savior." The soldiers whispered, their eyes shining like a hero. A young crew member shouted, "Long live Engineer Huang! I thought we were doomed just now." Huang Yi smiled, feeling warm in his heart. In the past, he always hid in the cabin and worked hard. Now, the applause at this moment made him straighten up. Growth spreads like a wave of energy. He is no longer a nobody, but a leader who can lead others. "Don't worry, everyone, this is just the beginning. Let's face the energy crisis together." His down-to-earth words, with his hometown accent, won more nods. Wang Jing watched from the side, with the corners of her mouth raised slightly and a hint of admiration in her eyes. During the night shift, outside the viewing window of the Silver Eagle, the sea of stars is as deep as ink. Huang Yi and Wang Jing huddled in the small rest area of the engineering cabin, with data sheets and hot coffee scattered on the table. The steam curls up, mixed with the bitter aroma of coffee, relieving the tension of the day. Huang Yi rubbed his temples, the blue light of the runes still lingering in his mind, but he felt something was wrong. Deep in the formula, there was a hidden red line, flashing like an alarm. "The rebels will not give up." Wang Jing took a sip of coffee and spoke in a low voice. "Their detection ship has locked our trajectory. The next attack may be within 48 hours. That guy from Ironclaw specializes in wolf pack tactics. He will first consume our shields and then kill us with one blow." Huang Yi stared at the holographic map and transformed the formula in his mind into a strategic blueprint. He predicted, "No, they will outflank. The meteorite cloud in the asteroid belt is a natural cover, and our scanner's blind spot is there. If they use particle accelerators to strengthen the artillery fire, the first wave can tear apart our bridge." His analysis was as precise as a blade, and Wang Jing's eyes lit up. "How do you know?" She leaned closer, her hot breath brushing his ears. "The runes taught me. Not only energy, but also tactical patterns. Counter-strategy, we use the prototype energy source to upgrade the auxiliary turret and convert meteorites into temporary shields. When they attack, the particle waves will be reflected and they will suffer the consequences." Huang Yi said, gesturing in the air with his fingers, simulating a battlefield. The refreshing wisdom burst out like energy, and he felt like he had transformed from a technical nerd into a strategist. This transformation made him feel confident. Wang Jing laughed and slapped the table. "Genius. This plan can defeat Iron Claw. But we need internal intelligence. Xi Wei, our spy, has been lurking in the rebel base for 3 years. He is a federal agent, disguised as their energy technician. I contacted him just now, encrypted channel." She activated the communicator, and a blurry holographic image appeared, a man in his early 30s, with a face full of weather and frost, and eyes as sharp as an eagle. "Wang Jing. Huang Yi. I heard that you brought back good things from Rune 7. Xi Wei's voice was hoarse. In the background was the buzz of the rebel base and the faint sound of the impact of the mechanical arm. "Xi Wei, let's get straight to the point," Wang Jing said. "Where's the blueprint? We need to sneak in and steal it." Xi Wei in the image frowned. "The blueprint is locked in the core library, and the protection is a double-layer particle shield, plus a guard mecha. But I can open the back door, forge your identities and enter as an energy expert. The risk is high, the rebels are frequently purging themselves, and I won't be able to last long. Huang Yi, can your runes break the shield?" Huang Yi's heart sank. Infiltrate? That meant facing the Iron Claw's lair, laser nets, and mecha swarms. One wrong step could lead to death. In my mind, the red line of the runes suddenly became clear. Side effects. Overload risk. If the quantum field is unstable, it will backfire on the user, detonate the internal energy, and turn into a small black hole. He felt a heat in his palm, and the blue light of the fragment dimmed for a moment. It can, but there are hidden dangers. The runes are not perfect, and forced circulation may overload and blow up the entire cabin. Wang Jing turned to look at him with complicated eyes. "Huang Yi, this is a bet. But the Federation has no way out. Are the lights in the home still on? Those children, wait for us." Huang Yi stood up and walked to the window. The sea of stars is boundless, and he thinks of the power outage in his hometown at night, and his mother's whisper in the darkness, "Ear, protect yourself." The inner struggle is like a tide, risk, or a security patch. But the flame of growth burned him. From engineer to leader, he couldn't just stick to it, and he couldn't let the crisis engulf everything. The side effects made him more cautious, and he took a deep breath. "I have decided. Sneak in, let's go. Xi Wei, prepare the back door. I will optimize the runes and avoid overload. But hurry, the rebel fleet signal is approaching the central line." Xi Wei nodded, and the image flickered. "Okay, see you in 72 hours. Be careful with Iron Claw, he has a weird energy implant, like your runes, but a twisted version." The communication was disconnected. Wang Jing held Huang Yi's hand with a firm touch. "You have changed, Huang Yi. From the dazed young man who touched the pieces to the decision-maker he is now. We will bear this crisis together." Huang Yi shook his hand back, his heart turning like energy stabilizing. Caution is not retreat, but a stronger weapon. The lights in the engineering cabin turned on and the prototype model buzzed, indicating that the infiltrating storm was about to roll in. In the distance, the red dot of the rebels is approaching faster, and the shadows of the stars are lengthening. The lights in the Silver Eagle's tactical room were dim, and the holographic projection platform projected a blue halo, surrounding Huang Yi and Wang Jing like ghosts. The two of them huddled in front of the cramped console, the air filled with the bitter smell of coffee grounds and the gentle hum of electronic equipment. Huang Yi rubbed his temples, the red line of the rune in his mind was still aching faintly, and the warning of side effects lingered like a shadow. Wang Jing leaned on the back of the chair, crossed her legs, and the intelligence tablet flashed on her lap. She glanced at him and said in a low voice, 72-hour countdown, Huang Yi. Jiwei's signal is about to be connected. Are you ready? Huang Yi nodded and took a deep breath. After returning from the ruins, he felt as if he had been reshaped by the runes, no longer the engineer who only focused on repairing machinery, but the decision-maker responsible for the fate of his homeland. But deep down, the feeling of isolation is still there. If it fails, wouldn't it drag everyone down? Ready. Wang Jing, this infiltration, we have to be foolproof. The projection platform beeped and the encrypted channel was turned on. Jiwei's holographic image emerged, the blurred outline trembling in the interference wave. He was wearing the gray overalls of the rebels. In the background was the cargo bay of the base, which was filled with rusted particle pipelines. There was a low mechanical roar in the distance, like the breathing of a beast. Huang Yi, Wang Jing, can you hear me clearly? The signal here is unstable, and Iron Claw's surveillance network is getting tighter and tighter. Jiwei's voice was hoarse, his eyes were bloodshot, and the scars on his face were even more hideous in the light and shadow. Clearly, Wang Jing replied, tapping the tablet to adjust the screen. Jiwei, let's talk about the weaknesses first. How thick is the base's protective shield? Jiwei moved closer to the image and lowered his voice. Double-layer particle shield. The outer layer is a standard old Federal model, and the inner layer borrows the energy lock from ancient ruins, a twisted quantum field that specifically locks intruders' biological signals. The blueprint is in the core library, and the guards are 3 heavy mechas. Plus laser net. But the weak point is in the energy core. Their stealers run into overdrive, with a 5-minute pulse gap during the night shift. I can fake your identity and go in as an outside maintenance expert. But be quick, Iron Claw suspects an insider, and the purge operation will be launched at any time. Huang Yi's heartbeat accelerated and formulas flashed in his mind. He leaned forward, energy lock? Send a sample. My golden finger may be able to crack it. Jiwei nodded and took out a small fragment from the hidden drawer in the background, a metal fragment as big as a fist, with twisted runes engraved on the surface and shining with a dark red light. He held up the scanner and the data stream was instantaneous. This is a fragment I smuggled out, scraped from their lock cylinder. Be careful, touching it will cause hallucinations, they say it is a curse from ancient civilizations. Data poured into Huang Yi's terminal. He put on the neural interface and closed his eyes. The rune fragments unfolded in my mind, spinning like broken puzzle pieces. Goldfinger awakens, blue light collides with red light, and knowledge pours out like a tide. This is a variant of the ancient energy lock, based on quantum entanglement, which locks on the intruder and feeds back high-energy pulses. But the weakness lies in the loop node. By injecting a reverse field, it can be neutralized and turned into a pass key. Huang Yi opened his eyes, beads of sweat falling down his forehead. It's cracked. The core of the lock is the entangled circuit. I can make a portable unlocker. Jiwei, send me the map. The holographic map unfolded, and the rebel base spread out like a spider web, a hidden cave in the asteroid belt. The entrance was hidden among the meteorites, the passages were winding, and guard posts and energy centers were marked. Jiwei pointed to a side passage. Go here and avoid the main corridor. There's a lot of internal conflict. Iron Claw's deputy, a guy named Shadow Wolf, is dissatisfied with the energy distribution and secretly contacts the neutral colonial star. The purge operation is targeting him. I can use this chaos to open the back door. But the risk is high. Huang Yi, can your runes really stabilize the overload? Huang Yi clenched his fists, feeling warm in his heart. Jiwei's sharing allowed him to see the outline of a team, from isolation to mutual trust. This transition is as solid as energy stability. Yes. I will optimize it. Thanks, Jiwei. See you in 72 hours. The image disconnected, and Wang Jing patted him on the shoulder. Good job. Now, start modifying the shuttle. Falcon Shadow must be upgraded, otherwise it will not pass the inspection of the patrol fleet. The lights in the engineering cabin turned on, and Huang Yi and Wang Jing rushed to the hangar. Falconing moored quietly, its silver hull flashing under the lights, like a beast waiting to be reborn. Huang Yi climbed up the scaffolding and took out the rune fragments. Blue light spread along his fingers. The formula running in his mind: invisibility, quantum refraction field, borrows photons from the void, bends detection waves, and makes the whole disappear like a ghost. Wang Jing, connect the energy line. Inject the circulating pulse. Wang Jing was operating below, her forehead soaked with sweat. Her voice came from the communicator. The wires are connected. Be careful not to overheat the fragments. Huang Yi embedded the fragments into the hull shell, and blue light exploded, flowing like a river of stars. Knowledge influx, the upgrade is completed. In stealth mode, Falcon Shadow can evade 99% of radars for 1 hour. A refreshing sense of growth rushed through him like an electric current, and he felt like he had transformed from a tinkerer into a creator. When the test starts, the air around the hull twists, the light bends, and the Falcon's shadow gradually fades away, leaving only its outline flashing under the light. It's done! Wang Jing, come up and try it out. She jumped into the cockpit and they were side by side. The engine hummed, and Falcon Shadow slid out of the hangar and dived into the star field. The patrol fleet's checkpoint is in front, and the holographic scanning beam is spread out like a net. Wang Jing controls and Huang Yi monitors the energy. They're locked, she whispered, her voice tense. Turn on invisibility. Huang Yi shouted. Blue light pulses, the hull refracts, and the scanning beam passes by, but there is no response. The patrol ship's communication rang. Unknown signal? Skin failed. Pass. The shadow of the Falcon slid past like a ghost. Huang Yi clenched his fists, and the joy of conquest surged in his heart. This technological upgrade is not just a tool, it is his transformation from passive escape to active control of interstellar shadows. Returning to the hangar, the two men disembarked panting. Wang Jing laughed and patted him on the back. Genius. In the tactics room, the three-person virtual simulation started. Jiwei's image was reconnected, and the map turned into a holographic battlefield. Huang Yi puts on the interface, Wang Jing inputs information, and Jiwei marks the trap. Look here, Wang Jing pointed to the side. The rebels' laser network is disguised as a maintenance pipeline. The first wave will sense heat sources. Runes were running in Huang Yi's mind, and the engineering genius exploded. Something is wrong. The entanglement of the energy lock will feed back biological signals, and they set up an ambush. The mecha descended from the zenith, blocking the escape route. He adjusted the simulation, injected blue light, and the predicted trajectory unfolded. The trap was seen through, and the side road became a counterkill route. Jiwei exclaimed, accurate. Shadow Wolf's conflict information is correct. They have internal faction fights and uneven distribution of mechas. This ambush was set by Ironclaw's cronies. But how do you know? Rune, Huang Yi said, his voice firm. Wang Jing's intelligence is like the edge of a puzzle. His genius fills in the gaps, and the three people's tacit understanding merges like an energy field. The climax of the simulation, virtual Huang Yi uses the unlocker to neutralize the laser network. Wang Jing snipers the mecha, Jiwei opens the back door, and the three of them get the blueprint directly. The success rate jumps to 85%. Huang Yi took off the interface, and the inner transition receded like the tide. In the past, he always felt isolated and relied on golden fingers to fight alone. Now, Wang Jing's sharp eyes and Jiwei's weathered face make him feel the warmth of the team. Trust is like a quantum cycle, growing continuously. We can do it, he whispered. I won't have to carry it alone anymore. But just as the simulation ends, an original twist comes. Huang Yi touched the rune fragments on the table, a red light bloomed, and visions exploded in his mind. The ancient star field collapsed, the giant fleet fell like a meteor, the energy field went out of control, and the black hole swallowed civilization. The prophecy echoed like a whisper, the cycle is broken, the homeland is destroyed. The one who reverses the situation carries the light. Huang Yi staggered back, sweating like rain. In the vision, he saw the green star in his hometown turning into scorched earth, and the children crying in the darkness. Huang Yi! Wang Jing supported him, her voice urgent, "What's wrong? Your face is as white as a ghost." He gasped, his eyes red. Visions, prophecies of ancient civilizations. They collapsed due to energy abuse, and the runes warned, if we fail, the Federation will repeat the same mistakes. This turn of events strengthened the motivation, burning his heart. The image of his homeland made him clench his fists. We can't let it happen. Iron Claw's twisted technology is the beginning of that broken cycle. We have to seize the blueprint and reverse everything. Zhi Wei's image nodded. Prophecy? Sounds like their superstition. But the motivation is strong, okay. I'll wait for you for 72 hours. Shadow Wolf's clash will help, he will create chaos during the purge. The simulation ended and the tactics room returned to silence. Wang Jing handed over the water glass, her touch was warm. Get some rest. Optimize the tools tomorrow. Dive in, right in front of you. Huang Yi looked out the window, and the sea of stars was as deep as a prophecy. The blue light of Falcon Shadow flashed in the hangar, ready to go. The tension of the climax is like the accumulation of energy, the red dot of the rebels is approaching, and the storm is about to break out. He took a deep breath and felt determined. Growth starts with trust and starts with reversing a crisis. The Falcon Shadow's engine roared like a beast's breath, cutting through the dust clouds of the asteroid belt. Huang Yi clenched the joystick, his knuckles turning white. The gray-black meteorites in his field of vision slowly slid past like the remains of a giant beast. Occasionally, blue arcs of electromagnetic storms flashed, illuminating the invisible refraction layer of the hull. The air was filled with the pungent smell of ozone and engine oil, mixed with the faint scent of sweat from Wang Jing's body, making the narrow cockpit seem particularly depressing. 72 hours had passed, and they set off from the Silver Eagle and headed straight for the rebel nest, an asteroid called Iron Thorn with pits like a honeycomb on the surface, hiding the dam base. Huang Yi, the external scan is clean. Wang Jing sat in the passenger seat, staring at the monitor screen and her fingers flying on the touchpad. Her voice was as steady as a rock, but with a nervous tremor. The patrol drone is hovering on the east side. Zhi Wei's signal has just been connected. The internal channel has opened a 5-minute window. Stay invisible, don't let those iron bumps bite us. Huang Yi nodded, his throat dry. He adjusted his course so that the Falcon's shadow circled a swirling rubble like a ghost. The blue light of the runes in his mind pulsed faintly, and the prophecy of the illusion was still echoing in his ears. The green star of his home turned into scorched earth, and the cries of the children were like knives. But now, there is no way out. Since the end of the simulation, he has been optimizing the tool for 36 hours continuously. The portable unlocker is in place and the energy pulse module is hidden in his belt. This is not an engineering experiment, but a real-life infiltration. His growth starts here, from the formulas in his head to the actions in his hands. Zhi Wei, can you hear me? Huang Yi pressed the communication button with a low voice. The encrypted channel beeped, and in the background was the hum of the rebel base, mixed with distant shouts. You can hear me clearly, Zhi Wei replied, his voice lowered to a whisper. The conflict between Shadow Wolf broke out and Iron Claw's cronies were cleaning. In the chaos, I opened the side passage, the back door of the maintenance cabin. I will send you the coordinates. Be careful, the first energy gate is a rune lock, red light version. If triggered, it will alarm the whole base. But your golden finger may be able to handle it. Hurry, I won't last long. Copy that. Hold on, Wang Jing interjected, tapping the screen to adjust the trajectory. We'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll control the external firepower remotely, and the Silver Eagle's auxiliary turret is in place. I'll pull you out if necessary. Huang Yi felt a heat in his chest. The team's tacit understanding is as tight as a quantum field. Wang Jing's intelligence is like his eyes, Zhi Wei's intelligence is like his hands, and his runes are like his heart. They are no longer strangers, but comrades in arms. The falcon shadow trembled as it approached the iron thorn star, with a faint red light coming from the cracks on the surface, the entrance to the base. The invisible layer buzzed, the hole refracted light, and the scanning wave passed by, but there was no response. The red dot of the drone flashed on the screen, 3 floating sentries patrolled like sharks, and laser eyes scanned the dust mist. "Turn left, avoid that one," Wang Jing shouted, gesturing. Huang Yi jerked the control stick, and Falcon Shadow slid sideways and brushed against the edge of a meteorite. The gravel hit the hole like raindrops, making a muffled sound. The drone turned, its red light locked onto the residue, and missed them. Huang Yi's sweat slid down the side of his neck, and his inner monologue flashed through. "In the past, I would only hide in the engineering cabin, but now, this is a battle. My heartbeat is racing, not from fear, but from excitement." The entrance to the side passage appears, a narrow fissure hidden behind a cluster of meteorites. Huang Yi slowed down, Falcon Shadow slid in, the hole rubbed against the rock wall, and sparks flew everywhere. The hatch slid open and they jumped out, putting on their masks and boots crunching on the soft gravel. The air is thin, with the sour smell of metal corrosion, and the low hum of the base in the distance is like the beating of a heart. Wang Jing picked up the laser rifle and scanned the surroundings. The passage is stable, Jiwei's mark is within 50 meters. The first energy gate red light flashes, like a blood network. They moved forward, the passage as narrow as an intestine, the walls carved with twisted runes, and the red light pulsating like a living thing. Huang Yi touched a stone slab, his golden fingers awakened, and blue light spread in his mind. The runes spin and knowledge pours in. This is a variant of the entanglement lock, based on the inverse quantum field, which locks intruders and drains energy back. But the weakness lies in the node. By reversing the pulse, it can be neutralized. Refreshing realization rushed through him like electricity. He took out the unlocker from his belt, and the small metal ball buzzed and injected blue light. "Huang Yi, the door is opening," Wang Jing whispered, pointing her gun at the shadow. The energy gate buzzed, and the red network twisted and turned into a green light channel. The door slid open, and a wave of heat hit the face, revealing the internal maintenance cabin. Pipelines were crisscrossed, sparks occasionally exploded, and the smell of burnt circuits filled the air. "Good job," Jiwei's voice came from the communication, mixed with gasps. "I'll wait for you at the end." "But the patrol is coming." 3, fully equipped with laser equipment. "Hurry!" Footsteps sounded, and a red light flashed at the end of the passage. 3 rebel soldiers appeared around the corner, their helmet scanning beams swept over and their laser guns raised. "Intruder! Fire!" Huang Yi's heart beat rapidly, and the first feeling of pleasure came. The formula flashed in his mind, and he grabbed the energy pulse module, a temporary device optimized from runes that can emit EMP waves and paralyze sensors. "Wang Jing, cover! Jiwei, retreat!" he shouted and pressed the switch. The blue light exploded, like an invisible shock wave. The passage lights flashed, the soldiers' scanners buzzed and failed, the laser gun circuit short-circuited, and sparks flew everywhere. They cursed and groped for their helmets. Huang Yi took the opportunity to rush forward and hit the leader's breastplate with a particle punch. Lightning burst out and the opponent fell to the ground and twitched. "Huang Yi, the one on the right." Wang Jing's voice sounded from the communication, and long-range fire support was activated. The Silver Eagle's auxiliary turret was locked, and the micro-missile was fired from the external channel, hitting the second soldier's leg, and the explosion raised dust. The third one turned around and ran away, but Huang Yi activated the pulse residual wave and the sensors were completely paralyzed. He rushed to suppress him, smashed his helmet with his fist, and fainted. "Clear," Huang Yi gasped, feeling adrenaline surge like a torrent of energy. This isn't engineering tinkering, it's the pure thrill of adventure, the abilities unlocked by Goldfinger, allowing him to move from the background to the front line. The soldiers' laser guns were scattered. He picked one up and held it heavy in his hand. Successfully sneaked into the core area. "Jiwei, where are you?" Deep in the passage, Jiwei's figure staggered out, his shoulders stained with blood, and the shouts of the pursuers echoed behind him. "Here!" Iron Claw's cronies have discovered Shadow Wolf's signal and are chasing me. He gasped, his face pale, and he held the data stick in his hand. Without saying a word, Huang Yi rushed forward to support him. The narrow passage is like a maze, with the sound of pursuers' boots approaching, laser fire streaking across the walls, and waves of scorching air hitting your face. A turning point in his growth occurred at this moment. In the past, he always used his brain to calculate, but now, his instinct dominates. He pushed Jiwei away and turned around to block a shot. The energy pulse module reflected sparks and protected the two of them. Wang Jing, full firepower. Jiwei, follow closely. Wang Jing's response was immediate, Roger. The missile enters the passage and explodes the escape route. The outside roared, the passage shook, and the pursuers screamed. Huang Yi dragged Jiwei forward, analyzing the path of the runes in his mind, turned left to avoid the laser net. The two squeezed into the side passage. Jiwei leaned against the wall and gasped, Thanks, Huang Yi. You have such strong instincts. Where did you learn it? Taught by Rune, Huang Yi grinned and wiped his sweat. A warm current surges in my heart. Saving people is not about calculation, but about intuition. This transformation allowed him to transform from an engineering mindset, and his fighting instincts awaken like an energy field. Together as a team, no one is left behind. Let's go, the blueprint is not far away. The three of them met, and Wang Jing's image emerged from the communication. She was remotely controlled on the Falcon Shadow, her face determined under the screen light. Good job. You have entered the core area. I'm monitoring the outside. The rebel fleet is gathering, but we have a 5-minute advantage. Be careful, Iron Claw's laboratory is nearby. As they moved forward, the air in the core area became muggier, the pipes on the walls pulsated like blood vessels, and red light runes were densely covered. Suddenly, a low roar sounded, accompanied by a sharp alarm. An original twist comes suddenly, the door of the laboratory is half open, and there is a fire inside. The leader of the rebels, Iron Claw, a tall figure with distorted energy crystals implanted in his arms, stands in front of the console and shouts, Power up. This unstable source must be stabilized. The energy source prototype hummed overloaded, blue and red light intertwined, and the air was twisted like a heat wave. Now! Huang Yi shouted, and Golden Finger analyzed. The source of instability is a rune variant, and the cycle breaks, causing a small explosion. He rushed into the side door, took advantage of the chaos to rush to the data terminal, and inserted the data stick. Knowledge influx, preliminary blueprint fragment download. The core formula of the particle accelerator, which can strengthen the artillery fire, but has the risk of overload, as predicted by his vision. There was a loud explosion, energy waves swept across, the Iron Claws cursed and retreated, and the guard mecha's alarm sounded. Huang Yi pulled out the stick and returned to the passage. The data is obtained. But the explosion caused trouble. The mecha group was activated. Jiwei nodded, blood staining his sleeves red. The blueprint storage room is right in front, with double shields. But if it explodes, Shadow Wolf's faction will take advantage of the chaos to counterattack, and we have a chance. Wang Jing's voice sounded, the external drones turned. I pulled firepower to disperse them. Huang Yi, enter the storage room. There are opportunities hidden in the crisis. Kill Iron Claw's plan. At the end of the passage, the storage room door stood, and the red shield flashed like a wall of blood. The mecha's footsteps approached with an earthquake, the laser net spread out, and the three of them were back to back, sweat mixed with smoke and dust. Huang Yi held the unlocker tightly, blue light lit up in his palm, and his heart tensed. Opportunities are ahead, and crises are like shadows. This battle will determine the turning point of the interstellar world. The energy door in the storage room is like the mouth of a blood-red giant beast, humming and swallowing red light, and the twisted runes on the wall pulse like a heartbeat. Huang Yi and the three of them leaned against the cold metal wall of the narrow passage, sweat sliding down their masks, mixed with the pungent smell of burnt circuits in the air. The mecha's footsteps approached like thunder, the ground trembled slightly, and the red lines of the laser net weaved into a web of death in the shadows. Jiwei was breathing heavily, and the blood stains on his shoulders were even more hideous under the red light. He cursed in a low voice. Damn it, Iron Claw's henchmen reacted too quickly. The explosion woke them all up. Don't panic, Huang Yi lowered his voice, and the blue light of the unlocker in his hand shone brightly, like stars in the palm of his hand. He took a deep breath, the golden fingers in his mind awakened, and the runes and formulas poured in like a tide. From the phantom prophecy, he knew that the choice at this moment determines everything. The green star of his home, his mother's whisper, and the darkness of the power-off night all flashed back in his mind. That's not a distant memory, it's the fire that spurs him on. You cannot retreat, you must advance. He slammed the unlocker on the door lock, the blue light collided with the red net, sparks flew, and the energy field twisted like a heat wave hitting his face. Open! The door slid open a crack, the red shield merged into a channel of green light, and hot air mixed with metal debris spurted out. Wang Jing's voice rang quickly from the communicator, and she was still monitoring remotely on Falcon Shadow. Huang Yi, I hacked into their limbic system. To distract me, I simulated a fault alarm in the energy center and lured the guards to the east wing. Get in quickly, the window is only 3 minutes. Thank you, Wang Jing. You are our eyes. Huang Yi replied, dragging Ji Wei into the storage room. Behind the door is a huge circular cavity, with data terminals embedded in the walls like a honeycomb. Blue and red lights are intertwined, the air is as sultry as a steamer, and the low hum in the distance is the pulse of a particle accelerator. The core of the blueprint, a suspended holographic crystal, rotating on the central platform, with encrypted runes on the surface shining like a star map. But there are many traps around, laser grills like spider silk, pressure traps hidden in the floor, and floating sentry drones buzzing on the walls. Ji Wei covered his wound and took the lead to turn into the side passage, his voice hoarse. Follow me, there is a maintenance channel here. Most of the Iron Claw guards are in the main hall, and the cleaning operation distracted them. But be careful, those small mechas are automatic, the red-eyed ones, specially patrolling the rune area. His steps staggered, blood dripping on the ground. Huang Yi caught a glimpse of the fatigue and hidden fear in his eyes. This risk is like a shadow, and the edge of Ji Wei's exposure is getting closer and closer. If Iron Claw suspects a mole, he will be the first target. They pressed against the wall, treading lightly to avoid triggering traps. Wang Jing's hacking took effect, and alarms buzzed and soldiers shouted in the distance, East Wing failure. Energy leakage, all personnel transferred. The distraction was successful, and the passage was temporarily clear. Huang Yi glanced at the wall. The runes were densely covered like ancient murals. His golden finger triggered it. He reached out and touched a raised stone slab. Blue light rushed into my mind, and the lines unfolded. These are not random carvings, they are maps. The complete blueprint of the ancient energy source is hidden in the crystal body, but it is located at the core node of the runes, the secret cabin behind the wall, which can only be opened by reversing 3 entanglement locks. Found it, Huang Yi whispered, excitement rushing through him like electricity. The blueprint is in the secondary cabin behind the wall. Ji Wei, lead the way. Ji Wei nodded and pried open a camouflage panel, revealing a narrow crawling path. This way, bypass the laser grill. I've repaired it before, and the weak point is the joint weld. The 3 of them crawled forward, and the passage was so narrow that their shoulders rubbed against the rock wall, and the dust hit their nostrils. Huang Yi felt his heart beat like a drum. Suddenly, a red eye flashed. A small rebel mecha descended from the ceiling. It was 2 meters high, with its mechanical arms stretched out like scythes, its scanning beams locked onto them, and its laser muzzle humming and charging. Intrusion alert. Lock the target. Damn it. Ji Wei cursed and rolled to the side, but the wound tore open and he fell to the ground with a groan. The mecha rushed towards him, its sickle arm swept across, sparks brushed against Huang Yi's armor, and the scorching air waves distorted the air. Wang Jing's voice boomed, Huang Yi, get out of the way. I tried to paralyze remotely, but the system backfired. Huang Yi's heart beat rapidly. This was the beginning of the climax in the middle. The mecha approached like a beast, its red eyes scanning his heat source, and its laser preheating. Wang Jing's interaction deepened at this moment. Her anxiety was like a warm current. Huang Yi, hold on. You can do it. His home flashed in his mind, the wheat fields of Green Star withered in the night of power outages, the children huddled in the darkness, and the crisis was like a black hole swallowing everything. That memory burned his heart like fire, changing his belief. He can't let it happen again. I am the reverser. Growth exploded, and he grabbed the energy module of his belt, fused the golden finger with the technological fragments of the base, pried off a rune lock cylinder from the wall, and injected a blue light pulse. Formula operation, quantum shield upgrade. Borrow the base's particle flow to temporarily generate a personal field, rebound attacks, and feed back energy. The blue light exploded, surrounding the body like invisible armor, and the buzzing shield bounced off the sickle arm. The mecha's alarm went off, and the second blow came. Huang Yi dodged sideways, sparks bounced off the shield, energy waves rushed back to the mecha's joints, and the circuit short-circuited and exploded. Come on, you idiot! Huang Yi yelled, feeling refreshed like a tide. He rushed forward, his fist wrapped in blue light hitting the mecha's breastplate. The quantum field seeped into it and overloaded the core. The mecha staggered, and the laser cannon accidentally hit the zenith, and debris rained down. Huang Yi jumped up, the shield advanced like a rocket, hit the red eye, the blue light burst, the mecha fell to the ground, the fire inside shot into the sky, and turned into a pile of smoking scrap metal. Well done. Wang Jing's voice was filled with a smile, and the message came from the communication. Huang Yi, your shield is simply a work of art. How do you feel? Huang Yi panted, his shield dimmed and faded, his back was soaked with sweat, but the joy of conquest surged in his chest. This duel is not luck, it is the pinnacle of growth. From engineer to warrior, the integration of golden fingers in actual combat allows him to show his talents. It feels like rebirth. Wang Jing, thank you for your cover. If you hadn't distracted those guards, I would have been in a honeycomb. His words were filled with warmth, and the interaction was like an energy connection, bringing the two closer together. She chuckled, it's a team. Next time it's me fighting alone, you give me a shield. Jiwei climbed up and patted his shoulder, boy, you saved my life. But don't relax, the blueprint cabin is right in front. Iron Claw's cronies are about to turn around, and my disguise won't last long. They rushed into the secondary bay, and the door slid open to reveal the suspended platform. The crystal rotates in the center, and encrypted runes are wrapped around it like a chain. Huang Yi rushed to the console, inserted the data stick, and opened his golden fingers in his mind. Blue light flooded the field of vision, and the runes unfolded into a complete blueprint, the secret of the ancient energy source, an infinite circulation field, which extracts zero energy from the void to form a self-sustaining shield that requires no fuel and has continuous output. Cool Point 2 broke out, and he realized the core, the cycle is not linear, but spiral entangled, inputting weak particles will generate infinite waves. The prototype concept takes shape instantly, a small generator that can supply energy to the entire fleet and reverse the crisis. It's done. Huang Yi murmured, his fingers flying to crack the encryption, and the data flow poured out like a flood. But an original twist suddenly occurs. Deep in the blueprint, there is a weakness of the rebels. Iron Claw's particle accelerator borrows twisting runes to strengthen the artillery fire, but it has an overload vulnerability. The cycle node is unstable, and forced operation will backfire on the base's energy center, causing a chain explosion, such as the collapse of ancient civilizations. Huang Yi's eyes lit up and he immediately adjusted his plan. Wang Jing, listen. The blueprint shows that there is a loophole in their energy source. The overload node is in the main reactor. Not only can we steal it, we can also detonate it. After dispersing the firepower, we will implant a reverse pulse from the inside and let the Iron Claw self-destruct. Genius. Wang Jing replied, her voice excited. I hacked into the center and prepared to implant the code. When you retreated, you detonated it and blew up their fleet assembly area. Jiwei, cover Huang Yi and download the full version. Jiwei nodded, but his face was pale. Okay, but Iron Claw's cronies are here, 5, heavily armed. The passage is sealed, we have to go through the ventilation duct. The download accelerated, and the blueprint reached 80%. 90%. The climax broke out, the hatch exploded, heavily armed soldiers rushed in, and laser fire was like rain. Huang Yi pulled out the data stick and restarted the blue light shield, blocking the first wave. "Run," he shouted, pushing Jiwei into the ventilation duct. Wang Jing's long-range fire roared, external missiles hit the soldiers, and the fire illuminated the cabin. The three crawled away, sweat mixed with dust, and the curses of the pursuers echoed behind them. Huang Yi grasped the data stick tightly and was determined, the lights of his homeland will be on again. With the blueprint in hand, the reversal starts from here. But Jiwei's breathing became heavier and heavier, the exposed shadow lengthened, an Iron Claw's roar came from the communication eavesdropping, "Seize the mole. The energy blueprint must not be lost. The crisis is like the accumulation of energy, and the storm is about to explode." The air in the ventilation duct was as sultry as a steamer. Huang Yi and the three of them crawled forward, their knees rubbing against the rough metal wall, making a small scraping sound. The data rod was held tightly in Huang Yi's palm, and the remaining blue light pulsed faintly, reminding them of their victory like a heartbeat. But the roar of the pursuers echoed from behind, and the voice of the Iron Claws came harshly through the eavesdropping channel, "Full blockade. The mole has taken away the blueprint. If you catch him alive, I will wring his neck with my own hands." All alarms sounded, red lights flashed like blood outside the passage, and the swarming guards approached like thunder. The heat wave of the laser sweep had seeped into the wall of the tube, burning their backs. "Damn it, exposed!" Jiwei gasped from the front, blood stained the pipe wall, and his face was as pale as paper under the emergency lights. "Iron Claw's relatives have blocked the main passage. We have to go around to the logistics cabin and destroy their energy lock from there to open the escape hatch." Huang Yi's heartbeat was beating like a drum, sweat slid down his forehead and into his eyes, stinging like fire. The golden fingers were looming in his mind, and the rune fragments were hot in his pocket, analyzing the energy flow around him. This base was originally a rebuilt ancient ruins, with hidden traps like poisonous snakes lying in wait. "Hold on," he whispered, his voice steadying the three of them. "I have a way to counter it. There is a node at the end of the pipe, the secondary system of the rune lock. I can activate it and make those iron lumps kill each other." Wang Jing's voice boomed from the communicator. She was still hovering over Falcon Shadow, monitoring external firepower. "Huang Yi, I see your position. There are 3 laser networks in the logistics cabin. I hacked into the edge system and temporarily closed 2 of them. But there are 10 guards, heavily equipped with particle shields. Jiwei, destroy their logistics, blow up the fuel pipeline and disrupt their position. I will coordinate the route, go straight from the logistics to the crack in the east wing, where Falcon Shadow will respond." "Copy that, Wang Jing." "You're always our savior," Jiwei replied, his voice laced with pain. He pried open the lid of the tube and the 3 of them rolled out, falling into the chaos of the logistics bay. The cabin was like the guts of a giant beast, with pipelines crisscrossing each other, steam gushing out, and the air filled with the burnt smell of engine oil and electric sparks. The guards had heard the news and moved. 10 figures emerged from the shadows. The red eyes of their helmets scanned and locked, and their laser guns buzzed and charged. "Stop! Hand over the blueprint," the leading soldier shouted, and the particle shield rose like blue mist, blocking the front. Huang Yi glanced at the wall, and the knowledge of runes flashed through his mind like lightning. He rushed towards a hidden panel and touched the raised stone slab. Goldfinger awakened, blue light exploded, and the ancient formula unfolded. "This is the defense network of the ruins, a trap based on quantum entanglement, which can reverse the energy flow and trap the intruder in the autophagic field." "Open," he yelled, pumping pulses into his fingers. The wall buzzed, the hidden slot cracked, and several energy whips sprang out like living snakes, wrapping around the 3 closest guards. Particle shields twisted, whips fed back their laser energy, fireballs exploded, soldiers screamed and fell to the ground, carapace melted like wax. "Good job, Huang Yi. But don't stop, there are more behind them." Wang Jing's voice was urgent, with a hint of excitement. "I closed the 3rd network and rushed to the east wing. Jiwei, the fuel line is on your right, blow it up." Jiwei gritted his teeth and rushed towards the pipeline cluster. The pain of the tearing wound made him groan, but he grabbed the blaster at his waist and pressed the switch. Die for the Federation. There was a loud explosion, the fuel pipe broke, and green flames shot up, engulfing the two pursuers. The cabin shook, smoke filled the air, and the guards were in disarray. The shouts were mixed with the fire, energy leak. Retreat, protect the core. Huang Yi took advantage of the chaos and grabbed the engineering arm on the side of the cabin, the rebels' maintenance tool. It is 2 meters high and has a mechanical claw equipped with cutting lasers and thrusters. The formula in his mind was transformed. He inserted the data rod into the arm control interface, and the blue light spread like blood vessels. Wang Jing, trust me. I'll open the way. His voice was firm. The engineer who used to rely on his team has transformed into a proactive leader. Of course I trust you, Huang Yi. From the moment you touch that fragment, you become a different person, our hero. Wang Jing replied, with a touch of tenderness in her voice, deepening the bond between comrades. Her words were like a stream of warmth, and Huang Yi felt a heat in his chest. It was no longer pure dependence, but a flame of independence. The first cool point breaks out. The engineering arm buzzed into action, and Huang Yi jumped into the cockpit, his mechanical claws stretched like the arms of a giant beast. The remaining 5 guards rushed towards them, laser fire like rain, and particle shields flashing. Take a hit from me. Huang Yi roared, his thrusters sprayed, and he rushed into the smoke. His arms and claws were wrapped in blue light shields to block the attack, and sparks flew from the rebound. The first soldier approached, Huang Yi sidestepped, the cutting laser slashed down like a sharp blade, the carapace shattered, and the opponent fell to the ground twitching. The second and third 3 shot together. Huang Yi predicted the trajectory with the runes in his mind, controlled the rotation of his arms, grabbed a corpse as a shield, and threw it back, knocking the 2 of them away. The refreshing reversal was like a torrent of energy, and he felt the power surge in his body. This was not luck, but the pinnacle of growth. From mending screws to defeating the enemy, heroic moments allowed him to show off his skills. Huang Yi, 2 on the left. They want to seal the door. Jiwei shouted, crawling out of the flames and covering with laser gun fire. Huang Yi turned around, raised his engineering arm high, injected the pulse of the data rod. The blueprint fragment was activated, and quantum waves erupted from his arm claws, sweeping across the last 2 people. The particle shield collapsed, the soldiers fell down like puppets with strings cut off, and the cabin returned to a brief silence, leaving only firelight and low humming. Clear! But the alarm is upgraded and the entire base is locked down. Wang Jing's voice sounded, the east wing route is opened, and Falcon Shadow is approaching. But Iron Claw personally leads the team. His energy implant can distort the runes, so be careful. The 3 of them gasped and rushed forward. Jiwei said while running, sharing the conspiracy in a low voice, Iron Claw is not a human. He dug out twisted crystals from the ruins and implanted them in his arms. He can control the energy field, but the cost is madness. He plans to use the blueprint to build a super fleet, first swallow up the federal border, and then go straight to the center. The Shadow Wolf faction opposes him because they know that this will destroy all the planets. An infinite cycle turns into infinite destruction, just like your illusion. Huang Yi nodded, his inner bond deepening. Jiwei's sharing is like a puzzle, turning the team from comrades into confidants. Thanks, Jiwei. We won't let him succeed. The green star of our homeland cannot be reduced to scorched earth. Wang Jing interjected, yes, let's carry it together. Huang Yi, you take the lead. The east wing passage is as narrow as a tomb passage, red light pulses in the cracks in the wall, and the shouts of pursuers approach from behind. Huang Yi held the data stick tightly, and suddenly a flash occurred in his mind. The blueprint is deeply encrypted. Goldfinger analysis. Complete activation requires a personal rune imprint, which is extracted from the fragments and injected into the user's energy field, otherwise the blueprint will self-destruct. The original twist was like a lightning strike, and he stopped, his palms feeling hot. Wait, there's something wrong with this blueprint. It can't be used directly. I have to mark it myself, fuse it with my golden finger, otherwise it will overload and self-destruct, twisting like the crystal of the iron claw. Ji Wei turned his head and his eyes widened. What? Then you have to take the risk. Iron Claw's pursuers are coming soon. Wang Jing's voice was urgent. Huang Yi, do it. We will cover you. You went from being dependent on the team to being independent now. This is your path. Mark it and let's reverse the crisis together. Huang Yi took a deep breath, and his inner transformation was like energy stabilization. In the past, he always relied on Wang Jing's intelligence and Ji Wei's internal response. Now, this person's challenge made him face his own limit, not relying on it, but taking responsibility. Imagery flashbacks of home, mother on the night of power outage, hungry child. He knelt down and pressed the data stick onto the crack in the ground. Blue light exploded and the runes were sucked into his palm like a whirlpool. The pain is like fire, the formulas in his mind collide, and the imprint is formed, his energy field merges with the blueprint, and the output is endless, with no side effects. It's done. He murmured, stood up, and his eyes became sharper. But the second highlight follows the crisis. There was a roar at the end of the passage, and the energy wave of the iron claw came. The twisted red light distorted the space, the walls cracked, and signs of energy explosion emerged like a tide. Goldfinger prediction, collapse within 3 seconds. Run! The passage is about to explode. Huang Yi shouted, dragging Ji Wei up and pushing Wang Jing's video signal forward. The trajectory is clear in my mind. Turn left, avoid the main crack, and jump over the energy pit. The three of them ran wildly, the ground shook, and rocks fell like rain. Ji Wei stumbled, and Huang Yi turned around to pull him up. Hold on. Don't be ashamed of the team. Wang Jing's long-range missile roared, blasting open the side wall, opening a way out. This way. The Falcon Shadow Gate is open. The collapse was like the roar of a giant beast. Red light engulfed the rear, and a heat wave hit the back. But Huang Yi's prediction was accurate and guided them to slide sideways to avoid falling rocks and jump into the crevice. Facing the outside void, Falcon Shadow's cabin door slid open, and Wang Jing's face was determined under the light. Get aboard. Let's take off. The three people rolled into the cabin, the engine roared, and the Falcon ejected, throwing away the collapsing rock dust. Huang Yi leaned against the bulkhead. The blue light of the data rod was stable, and the mark was completed. He watched Ji Wei bandage the wound. Wang Jing turned around and smiled. Huang Yi, you did it. The moment you stood on your own feet, you shined. Ji Wei nodded. We have broken Iron Claw's conspiracy. But he will not give up. His super fleet is still gathering. Outside the void, the red dots of the rebels were chasing like wolves, and the tension of the escape action was like the energy aftermath, foreshadowing a bigger storm. Huang Yi clenched his fists and felt determined. With the blueprint in hand, the Federation's reversal begins with returning to the Silver Eagle. Falcon Shadow's engine roared like a furious beast, cutting through the gray and black dust mist of the asteroid belt. The ship's hull trembled violently, as if it would be swallowed up by the red light behind it at any time. Huang Yi leaned against the bulkhead, his chest rising and falling, and the blue light of the data stick was still pulsing in his palm, like an iron block just fished out of the stove, which made his fingers numb. Wang Jing has jumped into the driver's seat, her fingers tapping on the console like lightning, her short hair swaying under the red warning light, sweat beads sliding down the side of her neck, mixing with the smell of engine oil in the cabin, making the air even more depressing. Ji Wei was half kneeling in the back cabin, tearing open his shirt to bandage his shoulder injury. His blood-stained face was twisted and he was holding the laser gun tightly. Damn it, Iron Claw's wolves are coming. 3 reconnaissance ships are outflanking us from the east wing, and laser cannons are targeting us. Wang Jing, get rid of them. Huang Yi shouted, his voice echoing in the buzz. He climbed up, and the blueprint knowledge flooded into his mind. After the mark was completed, the formula of the infinite loop field was no longer an abstract line, but a living blueprint, teaching him how to extract zero-point energy from the void. He felt like he had been reshaped, from the dazed young man he was when he sneaked in, to a commander who could control the battlefield. A surge of confidence surged in my heart. The green star of my homeland is waiting for me to go back. This time, it's not an escape, but a counterattack. Wang Jing jerked the control stick, and the falcon shadow slid sideways and brushed against a giant meteorite. The gravel rained down on the hull, making a muffled sound. Huang Yi, I'll give you the turret in the rear cabin. Xi Wei, cover the rear guard. I'll predict their trajectory. The two ships on the left will attack together, and the right will chase after them alone. Intelligence shows that the energy implantation of the Iron Claw allows their artillery fire to distort the space, but the weakness is the cooling period after overload, which cannot last 10 seconds. Her voice was as sharp as a knife, and the intelligence officer's instinct made her as accurate as a prophet. Her eyes flickered under the screen light, giving Huang Yi a sense of stability. Xi Wei nodded, dragged the wounded body to the shooting position in the rear cabin, and pointed the laser gun at the porthole. Come on, you iron-clawed lackeys. He pulled the trigger, and the first red light shot out, hitting the rear-end ship's propeller. Sparks exploded, but the opponent's particle shield buzzed and blocked it without any damage. The rebel ships were approaching like a ferocious swarm. The preheating buzz of the laser cannons came through the void. The red beam cut through the dust and fog and went straight to the tail of the Falcon Shadow. Huang Yi rushed to the console in the rear cabin and pressed the energy module interface with his palm. The blueprint formula unfolds in the mind: preliminary knowledge, construct a temporary energy field, extract particles from the outer layer of the ship, and form a self-sustaining shield. Xi Wei, don't waste ammunition. Let them shoot, I'll block it, he yelled, injecting a pulse. The blue light in the cabin was strong, like a river of stars flowing. The energy field spread out from the stern of the ship, and a translucent quantum wall buzzed into shape, surrounding the Falcon like an invisible armor. The air was twisted and heat waves hit the face. The first laser cannon hit the wall of the field. The red light was swallowed up like water waves and reflected blue ripples. Oh my God, it was shelled. Xi Wei whispered, his eyes widened, and he turned to look at Huang Yi, his eyes changing from tiredness to admiration. Boy, what kind of black technology are you talking about? Did you pick it up from the ruins? The gift of the blueprint, Huang Yi grinned, sweat soaking his forehead, but his confidence surged like energy. He felt that a turning point in his growth had occurred at this moment. In the past, he could only repair screws in the engineering cabin, and had to rely on Wang Jing and Xi Wei to help him sneak in. Now, he stood in the center of the battlefield, directing the direction of the energy flow, as calm as an old general. Wang Jing, speed up the right wing. Xi Wei, aim at their cooling period and shoot at the thrust port. Wang Jing laughed, pushed the joystick, and the Falcon's shadow shot out like an arrow, with dust and mist trailing behind. Roger. They are attacking together, two ships on the left wing, crossfire. Her prediction was like a god. As soon as Falcon Shadow turned, two laser beams grazed the meteorite and hit the energy field. The blue wall swallowed the red light, and the golden finger in Huang Yi's mind accelerated the interpretation of the runes. Upgrade. The circulating field is not passively blocked, but actively swallowed, converting laser energy into its own output, strengthening the field 3 times. His fingers were flying, adjusting parameters, and the blue light surged, like a giant beast opening its mouth, and the energy field expanded into a net to catch the second wave of bombardment. Refreshing points erupt like a tide. The moment the devouring was completed, the energy field rebounded. The blue wave rushed back like a tsunami and hit the 2 reconnaissance ships on the left wing. The particle shield collapsed, the hull cracked, the engine exploded into a fireball, and the debris rolled in the void, turning into 2 gorgeous fireworks. Kill the first wave. Huang Yi shouted, pleasure rushing through his chest like electricity. This was not a small fight, but a large-scale counterattack. The rebel wolf pack changed from 3 ships to 2, and the pursuit rhythm was disrupted. He watched the red dot on the screen dim, and an inner monologue flashed through him. It turns out that I can direct all of this. Confidence is like a blue light, illuminating the transformation from a novice infiltrator to a battlefield leader. Jiwei took advantage of the situation and opened fire, and the laser accurately hit the cooling port of the right-wing single ship. Wang Jing's predicted weakness. Hit. This iron knot is going to capsize the boat, he roared, his face twisted in pain from the wound, but his role as a defender made him grit his teeth and persevere. The engine of the single ship broke, rolled over and hit the meteorite, exploded with a bang, and the debris fell like a meteor shower. Falcon Shadow took advantage of the chaos to accelerate and shake off the dust mist, but the communicator suddenly sounded harshly, and Iron Claw roared like thunder, "Federal bugs! You stole my blueprints and thought you could escape? Send out the frigate and annihilate them all." An original twist suddenly occurs, the red dots on the screen explode, and a giant battleship emerges from the depths of the asteroid belt. Ironclaw's ship, which is 500 meters high, with twisted rune crystals planted on its surface, and red light pulsating like a living creature. The energy weapon is preheated, the space is distorted, and the muzzle is locked on Falcon Shadow. The leader is here in person. Wang Jing cursed in a low voice, with a hint of nervousness in her voice. Huang Yi, his implant can control the distortion field, and the artillery fire will bend the trajectory and pursue us. Intelligence shows that the weakness is in the core of the crystal, but you have to get close to hit it. Huang Yi's heart sank, the pressure of the first confrontation was like a heavy hammer. But the knowledge of the blueprint allowed him to analyze calmly. The golden finger scanned the energy wave of the Iron Claw. The twisted rune is a variant cycle, powerful but unstable. The core crystal will backfire after overloading, and the node is on the lower level of the bridge. Wang Jing, go around in a circle. Don't fight hard. Jiwei, prepare EMP bombs. I will upgrade the energy field. Swallow his distortion cannon and find the weaknesses. His command was as natural as a command, full of confidence, and the growth arc was straightened in the crisis. The Iron Claw ship rushed towards it, its gunfire like a curved red snake, streaking through the void and chasing after it. Wang Jing dodges smartly, and the Falcon Shadow snakes among the meteorites, and the sparks that brush against the rock wall illuminate the cabin. They're bitten to death. Huang Yi, hold on to the field. The laser grazed the side of the ship, heat waves seeped in, and the bulkhead turned red. Huang Yi rushed back to the console, and the rune interpretation accelerated. Blueprint upgrade. The energy field was injected with reverse entanglement, and the twisted weaknesses were analyzed from the devouring. The blue light exploded, and the field opened like a giant net to capture the first curved cannon. The red light was swallowed and the energy was fed back. The structure of the Iron Claw crystal flashed in Huang Yi's mind. Overload vulnerability. Found it. The crystal node is unstable. Shooting the lower level of the bridge will detonate the chain. Genius. Jiwei shouted, firing an EMP bomb to paralyze the ship's auxiliary shield. The warhead hit, sparks flew everywhere, and the roar of Iron Claw came from the eavesdropping. Damn bug. Do you know my weapons? Come on, let's face off. But Huang Yi didn't fall for the trick, and Wang Jing predicted, he's bluffing. The frigate is on the side wing ambush. I hack into the signal and detonate their missile arsenal. Her intelligence was like a sharp sword. Falcon Shadow slid sideways to avoid the ambush, and the long-range hacking took effect. The two frigates on the flank self-destructed, and the fireball engulfed the void, and the Iron Claw ship was forced to retreat. The chase entered a fever pitch. The Falcon Shadow's engine hummed overload. Huang Yi's energy field swallowed up the third wave of bombardment, and the rebound wave swept across the ship's wings, tearing a crack. The red light of the crystal dimmed, and Iron Claw cursed and retreated. This blueprint, you fused it? Next time, I will tear you apart with my own hands. The rebel wolves ran around, the red dots scattered, and Falcon Shadow finally broke away from the encirclement and sailed towards the Silver Eagle's connection point. In the cabin, the three of them gasped and looked at each other. Wang Jing turned her head and smiled. Huang Yi, you are commanding like an old bird. From a nervous boy when sneaking in, to now counterattacking the whole scene, he is full of confidence. Jiwei nodded and patted him on the shoulder. Yes, brother. The blueprint is in your hands, and our homeland can be saved. But Iron Claw has set its sights on you, and his weakness, You have seen through it, and he will not be lenient in the next wave of climax. Huang Yi held the data stick tightly and looked at the distant red light outside the porthole. With confidence as solid as an energy field, he whispered, "Come on. We don't just defend, the Federation wants to fight back." The Silver Eagle's signal light flashed in the distance, the plot advanced like a climax, and the reversal of the interstellar crisis was close at hand. The lights in Falcon Shadow's cabin flickered, flickering like a tired pulse. The low roar of the engine gradually became steady, throwing away the red shadow of the Iron Claw ship. Huang Yi leaned against the console in the back cabin, his chest still heaving violently. The blue light of the data stick reflected his sweaty face, as warm as if he had just been taken out of a furnace. He took a deep breath. The air in the cabin was mixed with the burnt smell of burnt circuits and the bloody smell oozing from Jiwei's wounds, making him breathless. Wang Jing turned around from the driving seat, her short hair messy and sticking to her forehead. She wiped the sweat on her forehead, and her voice was filled with a hint of tired but determined warmth. "Huang Yi, we are out of danger. The Silver Eagle's response signal is 50 light away, but the remaining rebel ships may still be following. Take a breath first, and I will repair the hull. Those 2 laser scratches, the thruster efficiency has dropped by 15%. Thanks, Wang Jing." Huang Yi nodded, holding the data stick tightly, feeling the energy of the blueprint pulsing in the palm of his hand like a living thing. Jiwei was half lying beside the bulkhead, gritting his teeth and sealing his shoulder injury with medical glue. His face was pale but his eyes were sharp. He took out the encrypted communicator from his belt and pressed the button. "I'm here to contact the reinforcements. The Federal Patrol Squadron is nearby, and the captain knows that we have brought back the blueprint. Now, they have to send the main force to escort." The communicator beeped, and the response from the Silver Eagle came in the background noise. "Falcon Shadow, I heard you. Hold on, reinforcements will arrive in 10 minutes. Huang Yi, is that blueprint, is it genuine?" "It's true," Huang Yi replied, with a hint of undoubted confidence in his voice. He turned to the console and inserted the data stick into the socket. Blueprints flooded into the terminal, and rune lines spread out on the holographic screen, spinning like ancient star maps. Goldfinger awakened, the blue light in his brain merged with his energy field, and the formula was instantly perfected: the Protective Shield Innovation Plan Infinite Loop Quantum Field, extracting zero-point energy from the void, self-sustaining output, and no longer relying on depleted reactors. Huang Yi's fingers were flying, optimizing parameters, and a wave of heat surged in his heart. "In the past, I was just an engineer repairing screws, and I thought it was luck when I touched the rune fragments. Now, this blueprint allows me to see the future of the Federation. The lights in my homeland will never go out, and the border is no longer a hunting ground for wolves. The cost of this adventure is blood and sweat, but it is worth it." Wang Jing crawled back from the engineering cabin, holding a welding tool in her hand and covered with metal shavings. She came closer to Huang Yi and lightly touched his arm with her shoulder. The smell of perfume mixed with sweat brought a sense of intimacy and warmth. "It's fixed, the thruster is stable. But don't burn out your head. How about the blueprint integration?" Her eyes flashed under the blue light. When the distance got closer, Huang Yi felt his heartbeat speed up slightly. From comrades to the tenderness of this tacit understanding, the emotion quietly heated up like an energy field. "It's almost done," Huang Yi smiled and typed the last string of codes. On the holographic screen, an innovative plan took shape. The energy source prototype was expanded from small boat level to fleet level, and the output increased by 500%. The shield not only blocked the cannons, but also rebounded and converted enemy fire into its own fuel. "Here, let's test it. The simulation system on the boat can run a virtual battlefield. I'll upgrade the energy source and simulate repelling the rebel fleet." Jiwei raised his head and gasped with excitement. "Boy, are you serious? Iron Claw's wolves are no joke." He climbed up and leaned over, and the 3 of them crowded in front of the narrow console. Wang Jing nodded and activated the simulation mode. "I set the parameters: 10 virtual rebels, led by the Iron Claw ship, outflanking tactics. Energy source injection, start." The simulation started, and the holographic projection spread out like a sea of stars. The shadow of the Falcon was gliding in the virtual void, and the surrounding red dots were approaching like wolves. Huang Yi injected blueprint pulses, the energy source buzzed, and blue light spread from the console to the entire cabin, running through the skin like cool electricity. The curve on the screen skyrocketed, the output jumped from the standard 100% to 650%. The virtual energy field unfolded, and the quantum wall was like an invisible giant network, swallowing the first wave of laser cannons. The red light was transformed, and the rebound wave swept through the 3 virtual rebel ships. The particle shield collapsed, the hull exploded into a fireball, and the fragments were as bright as fireworks. "Oh my God, this efficiency!" Wang Jing whispered, her eyes lit up, and she grabbed Huang Yi's arm, which felt solid and warm. "Huang Yi, you did it." All the rebels' combined attacks were eaten up, and the energy is still rising. Next, the Iron Claw ship pounces. Joy surged in Huang Yi's heart, like a flash of technological breakthrough. He adjusted the formula and used the golden finger in his mind to analyze the virtual distortion field, upgrade countermeasures and inject reverse entanglement. The blue light exploded, the energy field opened like a giant beast's mouth, swallowing the ship's curved gunfire, and the feedback wave hit the core of the crystal. The roar of the virtual Iron Claw echoed, "Impossible!" The ship cracked, and the chain explosion swallowed up 5 surrounding ships. The simulated battlefield was cleared, leaving only the blue light of Falcon shadow shining alone. Feelings of pleasure erupted like a tide. Huang Yi clenched his fists and felt endless pleasure. This is not a game, it is a real reversal. If the Federal Fleet uses this plan, the energy crisis will become history. I will no longer be a nobody, but a pioneer in changing the interstellar. At the end of the test, low shouts erupted in the cabin. Wang Jing turned around and looked at him with complicated eyes. "Huang Yi, you have changed. From that piece of fragment, you have shone brightly. This joy, I share it." She came closer and touched the back of his hand lightly, and the air was filled with gentle tension. Huang Yi felt his face heat up slightly and shook his head back. "Wang Jing, without your intelligence and repairs, we would have been defeated long ago. This is a victory for the team." Zhi Wei smiled, and the communicator suddenly beeped, "Reinforcements have arrived." But there is bad news. The Federation squadron intercepted Iron Claw's encrypted signal. He is not just thinking about the border, but his bigger conspiracy to use the blueprint to build a super particle cannon array, aiming at the core energy station of the Federation's central galaxy. Once completed, not only the fleet will be paralyzed, but the entire colonial network will collapse, like ancient civilizations, black holes swallowing stars. Huang Yi's heart sank, and his inner reflections came like a flood, the blood and sweat of adventure, the thrill of infiltration, the prophecy of illusions, all for home. But now, determination was as strong as steel. I couldn't just save one ship, I had to save the entire Federation. Technology is a weapon, and I will use it to light up the sea of stars. Zhi Wei, thank you for sharing. We have to return to the Silver Eagle quickly and deploy the plan. But the blueprint. Before he finished speaking, the data stick glowed red and the alarm sounded harshly. A warning popped up on the holographic screen: blueprint activation is incomplete. The core energy of the ruins needs to be injected, otherwise the mark will collapse and the risk of self-destruction will be 100%. Huang Yi's eyes widened, and he scanned with his golden finger. The original twist is like a lightning strike. The deep encryption of the blueprint, derived from the protection of ancient civilizations, requires activation of the core energy crystal of the desolate starfield ruins, otherwise the fusion will fail, and the energy field will backfire on the user, as crazy as the distortion of the Iron Claw. Damn it, we have to turn back to Ruin 7. The core crystal is there, otherwise the blueprint will be in vain. Wang Jing frowned. Turn back? The rebels are still chasing us. The remaining Iron Claw ships have locked onto us. The red dot on the screen is approaching, and 5 reconnaissance ships are outflanking us. The external alarm buzzed, laser fire streaked across the hull, heat waves seeped into the cabin, and the Falcon shadow trembled and slid sideways. The joy of resolving the crisis momentarily turns to the tension of the final conflict. Huang Yi stood up with sharp eyes. Wang Jing, heading to Remnant 7, full speed. Jiwei, contact the reinforcements to hold the iron claws. I will fight back this time, take the initiative. His voice was as decisive as a command, and his growing confidence made the team's eyes light up. From reflection to action, he no longer hesitated, save the Federation, starting with this battle. Cool. 2 bursts. Wang Jing adjusted the course, Falcon Shadow snaked to avoid the first wave of gunfire, and Huang Yi rushed back to the rear cabin turret and injected an upgraded energy source. Blue light pulses rushed into the weapon system, the output of the laser cannon increased sharply, and the curve jumped to 800%. Come on, you scum, he shouted, aiming at the engine port of the lead scout ship. The blueprint in the mind predicts the trajectory, the weak point is at the particle flow node, paralyzed with one hit. The red light shoots out, like a sharp sword piercing the void, hitting the target. The enemy ship's engine exploded, fireballs rolled, and the 2 ships on the flanks ran around. Huang Yi, hit! They panicked. Jiwei shouted, laser gun-assisted shooting, and shot down a missile. Wang Jing laughed, come again, flank your energy field shield will withstand it. Huang Yi activated the field and swallowed the second wave of bombardment. The rebound wave swept through the 3rd ship, and the whole melted like wax. Panic came from the rebel communication eavesdropping, the Federation has new weapons. Retreat, report Iron Claw. The last 2 ships turned and fled, but Huang Yi's prediction was accurate, and the gunfire crossed, paralyzing the engines, leaving them floating in the void like crippled behemoths. After becoming famous in one battle, cheers erupted in the team, and Jiwei patted him on the shoulder, boy, you are a hero. This blow has been reported back to the Federation, and your reputation has become famous in the star territory. The shadow of the Falcon accelerated back to the desolate star field, and the gray and black outline of the Rune 7 gradually appeared outside the porthole, surrounded by dust clouds like a ghost. Huang Yi looked out the window, his inner determination as stable as blue light. The crisis resolved the small battle, but the final conflict was brewing in the conspiracy of Iron Claw. With the core crystal in hand, the Federation's counterattack will be ignited from here. Wang Jing turned her head and her eyes met. Huang Yi, let's face it together. We will bear the fate of the Interstellar. Jiwei nodded, and the reinforcement signal was sent, indicating the coming of a bigger storm. Falcon Shadow's engine roared like a tired breath, cutting through the gray-black dust mist of the desolate star field. The outline of the Rune 7 gradually became clear outside the porthole, like a sleeping giant. The surface of the pits was covered with ancient cracks, and a faint blue and red light showed through. Huang Yi stared closely at the navigation screen, the blue light of the data stick reflected on his face, and the heat wave from when he had just attacked the rebel ship still remained in his palms. He took a deep breath. The air in the cabin was hot and dry, mixed with the smell of burnt welding residue and the pungent smell of Jiwei wound medical glue. Wang Jing, choose the landing point east of the last entrance, where the radiation is low, and avoid the meteorite belt. But be careful, the ruin's automatic sensors may still be operating. Wang Jing nodded, her fingers flexibly adjusted the joystick, her short hair swayed under the instrument light, her voice was as steady as a rock but with a hint of vigilance, understood. Jiwei, how's your wound? Is the medical kit in the logistics cabin enough? We have to advance at full speed. The signal of Iron Claw is still following 5 reconnaissance ships, half a light hour away. Federal reinforcements are holding them back, but the window is not big. Jiwei leaned against the bulkhead, the medical glue on his shoulder glowing green. He grinned, his face pale but his eyes sharp. You can hold on to the small injury. It depends on you to activate the blueprint. I will break the back, destroy the remaining traps, lest the ruins blow us into pieces as intruders. He grabbed the laser gun and checked the ammunition. His movements were slow but firm, as reliable as a veteran. The Falcon Shadow touched the ground tremblingly, and the hatch slid open. Thin air mixed with mineral dust rushed towards his face. Huang Yi put on his mask and was the first to jump out, his boots crunching on the soft gravel. Surrounded by collapsed arches and broken stone pillars, wind-eroded runes pulsated faintly under the dim starlight, like veins coming to life. The radiation meter ticked, and Huang Yi felt a chill down his spine, but a sense of determination surged in his heart. From the stupid young man in the engineering college to the warrior who sneaked into the rebel lair, this return was not for retreat, but for a stronger reversal. The green star of my home is waiting for me to light it up. The three of them walked through the familiar corridor. Wang Jing scanned the surroundings, holding the pistol tightly. The energy reading is abnormal. The remains of the mecha we destroyed last time are still there, but there are new pulses in the depths. The blueprint activation point is in the central cavity, 200 meters away. Jiwei followed, while as he walked, he pried open the hidden panel on the wall. Look, there are old traps here, the power cords of the laser network. I cut them off to avoid bad things along the way. His laser cutter buzzed, sparks flew everywhere, the lights in the passage were dim after the disconnection, and the hidden red network was as limp as a dead snake. They arrived at the central cavity. The empty circular space was like the heart of a giant beast. The walls were densely covered with runes. A core crystal the size of a fist was suspended on the central platform. The blue light was as pure as stars, and it pulsated with coolness. Huang Yi stepped forward and pressed the data stick onto the rune slot on the edge of the platform, and the blueprint mark was instantly activated. The light flowed in like a tide, rushing into his palm and straight into his mind. The golden finger is fully opened, the ancient formula collides with the modern blueprint, and the lines rotate like a galaxy, the complete form of the infinite loop field merging quantum entanglement and particle extraction. The energy source is not only sustainable, but also adaptively upgraded. The protective shield evolves like a living creature, swallowing enemy fire and rebounding with 10 times the power. Huang Yi, how do you feel? Wang Jing came closer and lightly touched his arm with her shoulder, with a hint of worry in her voice. Her eyes flashed under the blue light, and the intelligence officer's intuition made her scan the surroundings. The readings are off the charts. What is this crystal awakening? Before he finished speaking, the ground shook violently, and a low roar sounded from the depths, like the roar of a giant beast. The platform was cracked, dust was flying, and energy arcs shot out, converging and forming. The guardian of the ruins, a giant mecha 10 meters high, with rusty surfaces but shining with an ancient blue light. The mechanical arms stretched out like giant claws, and the core of the chest pulsed with red light. The scanning eyes locked onto the three people. The ultimate trial starts. Stealer, prove your qualifications. The mechanical sound echoed like thunder, the air was distorted, and heat waves hit the face. Damn it, this is an upgraded version of the mecha from last time. Jiwei cursed and rolled to the sidewall. The laser gun fired at the cover, but the beam grazed the mecha's shell, leaving only a shallow mark. Huang Yi, is the blueprint activated? We have to destroy its energy nodes. Huang Yi came back to his senses, and knowledge poured into his mind like a flood. The weakness of the Guardian machine was the entanglement lock at the core, and the pulse needed to be reversed to paralyze it. But the mecha had already rushed towards them, its huge claws smashed down, the ground cracked, and gravel rained down on them. Wang Jing shouted, "Tactics! Huang Yi, hold your energy shield against the front, I will circle from the left wing and snipe the joints. Jiwei, destroy the rune line supporting the leg on the right side." Her command was like a sharp sword, and her eyes were firm, which deepened the tacit understanding of the team. Huang Yi nodded, and his heart turned like a blue light exploding. In the past, I always hid in the engineering cabin and calculated formulas. Now, this trial is my battlefield, not repairing, but creating victory. The growing flame burned his chest, he activated the blueprint mark, the energy source buzzed, the quantum field surrounded him like armor, and the blue wall was indestructible. "Come on! You old antique," he yelled, rushing forward to block the giant claw. During the collision, the claw arm hit the energy shield, the red light collided with the blue light, sparks flew everywhere, but the shield wall swallowed the impact, the feedback wave returned to the mecha arm, the joint circuit exploded, and the mechanical arm staggered back. Refreshing points erupt like a tide. The mecha's alarm sounded, the red light on its chest surged, and the laser cannons fired in volleys, red light pouring down like rain. Huang Yi felt a wave of heat hitting his face, but the energy shield swallowed everything invincibly. The blueprint fusion allowed the shield to not only block, but also convert enemy fire into its own fuel, and the output increased dramatically. "Take a hit from me." He injected a pulse with his backhand, and the shield wall expanded into a net, catching the laser rain, and the rebound wave swept back like a tsunami. The mecha's shell cracked, the cannon array melted, and the fragments fell like meteors. Huang Yi jumped up, pushing his shield like a rocket, his fist wrapped in blue light hitting the mecha's knee joint. The quantum field seeped into it, overloading the node. The behemoth-like body tilted suddenly, the ground shook, and dust and mist were raised like a storm. "Huang Yi, beautiful. But it's not dead yet, the core is in the chest." Wang Jing fired from the left wing, the laser accurately hit the exposed joints, and sparks exploded. Her tactics were as accurate as predictions. "Shiwei, now!" Shiwei pounced on his right leg, and the cutter buzzed to cut off the rune line. Broken. The support collapsed. The circuit in the mecha's leg short-circuited, the giant body knelt down, and the scanning eye flashed red, trying to fight back. But Huang Yi was close, his golden fingers were fully open, and he read the runes on his chest, the fusion of ancient and modern, injecting reverse entanglement and ending the cycle. Blue light rushed into the core, the red light dimmed, and the mecha stiffened and fell, turning into a pile of smoking wreckage. The exhilaration at the peak of the adventure ran through him like an electric current. Huang Yi gasped and stood up straight, feeling that he had transformed from a young engineer into an interstellar hero, no longer a nobody, but a pioneer in reversing fate. An inner monologue flashed through. "I use this light to illuminate the darkness of my home." But an original twist comes suddenly. The moment the mecha fell to the ground, the core crystal exploded with blue light, and illusions flooded the three people's vision like a tide, the scene of the ancient star field collapsing, the giant fleet turning into a black hole, and the energy field losing control and swallowing civilization. Whispers echoed, "The Stealer." Iron Claw, the leader of the rebels, once sneaked into this place, stole some runes, twisted them into red crystals and implanted them. His betrayal came from greed. An old federal general turned to the rebels and sold his homeland for infinite power. A complete energy source, only for a pure heart. In the illusion, Iron Claw's face flashed in federal military uniform when he was young, with sharp eyes, which later turned into twisted red light, and his sinister smile when stealing the runes was like a ghost. Huang Yi's eyes widened, and the anger in his chest was like an overload of energy. Iron Claw, he is a member of the Federation. Betrayed his homeland just for the twisted power? This revelation was like a twisting knife, increasing the shadow of betrayal and making the crisis deeper. Iron Claw is not only the leader of the enemy, but also a fallen member of his former comrades. Wang Jing supported him and said in a low voice, "Damn it, this explains his implant, why he is so familiar with our tactics." "Shiwei, did you mention Iron Claw's past in your intelligence?" Shiwei frowned and wiped his sweat. "I didn't dig deeper, but now I understand. He used to be an energy expert in the Central Fleet, but disappeared after the crisis broke out. It turned out that he stole runes and built a rebel empire. Huang Yi, this blueprint, we have to use it to counter his betrayal." The illusion faded, the core crystal pulse stabilized, and a complete energy source emerged, a pure blue crystal, injected with a data rod, and the blueprint finally became sustainable. Huang Yi held it tightly, feeling power pouring in like a sea of stars. "It's done. Infinite loop, no side effects. This is our weapon." But the communicator suddenly sounded harshly, and Wang Jing's monitor screen glowed red. "Iron Claw's ship breaks through the reinforcements and approaches Remnant 7. He knows that we are here to activate, and the entire escort fleet is dispatched, 20 ships, outflanking tactics. The climax is coming." The three of them rushed back to Falcon Shadow, the engine roared and ejected, and the blue crystal energy source buzzed and gathered momentum. Huang Yi looked out the porthole. The red dots were approaching like a pack of wolves, and his inner determination was as strong as a shield. The shadow of betrayal made reversal more urgent. The interstellar storm is about to break out in full force. Falcon Shadow's engine roared like a violent wind, and the pulse of the blue crystal energy source caused the void around the ship to slightly distort, as if it was covered with a layer of invisible armor. Huang Yi stared closely at the rear-view screen. The red light of the Iron Claw ship was looming in the dust and fog. The twisted crystal muzzle was still warming up, and the curved energy wave chased after it like a poisonous snake. Wang Jing jerked the control stick, and Falcon Shadow slid sideways around a cluster of meteorites. The debris hit the hull with a muffled sound. She cursed in a low voice, "Huang Yi, that iron bastard is biting hard. The signal for reinforcements is getting closer, but we have to hold on for 5 minutes. Is the energy source enough?" "I can withstand it," Huang Yi replied, his voice as steady as a rock. He rushed back to the console and pressed the blue crystal into the interface. The blue light exploded like a starburst, and the energy field expanded instantly, swallowing up the first curved bombardment. The red light was converted, and the rebound wave returned to the ship's wings, tearing a crack. Iron Claw's roar came from the eavesdropping channel. "Boy, you fused the core? This is my thing." Huang Yi sneered, predicting the trajectory of the runes in his mind. "Wang Jing, turn left. His next wave will go around from the flank. The weak point is during the crystal overload period, 3 seconds of cooling, shoot it." Wang Jing nodded and gestured, "Roger." "Jiwei, rear gun cover." Jiwei gritted his teeth and pulled the trigger. The laser swept through the void and hit the ship's auxiliary engine. Falcon Shadow took advantage of the situation to accelerate, and the infinite cycle of blue crystals caused the output to skyrocket. The hull of the ship shot out like an arrow, throwing away the red light. The reinforcements of the Federal patrol ship finally appeared, and the 5 warships swooped in like a flock of eagles, firing particle cannons. The Iron Claw ship cursed and retreated, and the red dot gradually faded away. "Take it off." Huang Yi breathed a sigh of relief and leaned back on the chair, feeling the remaining warmth of the blue crystal flowing into his chest like a warm current. From the thrill of infiltration to the current counterattack, this growth has made him no longer an engineer working alone, but a pillar that can protect the team. Relieved to return to the Silver Eagle, Shadow Falcon slid into the launch bay, cheers flooding the bridge as the door slid open. Uncle Li was the first to rush forward and patted Huang Yi on the shoulder. "Boy, this thing you brought back is simply an artifact. The captain has contacted the center, and the senior management personally ordered, go straight to the core fleet base and demonstrate the energy source. The energy crisis is now saved." The federal headquarters of the central system is like a steel fortress, suspended in the orbit of the green colonial star. Hundreds of fleets are neatly arrayed, and the lights reflect the star sea. Wang Jing took the lead, and the 3 of them escorted Lan Jing into the tactics hall. The senior generals gathered in front of the holographic stage, their faces livid. The border alarm was still flashing, and the rebel vanguard was approaching the supply line. Engineer Huang Yi, Chief General Iron Arm, spoke in a low voice, his eyes as sharp as an eagle. "It is rumored that you dug up ancient technology from rebel lairs and ruins. To prove it, the Federation cannot afford to wait." Huang Yi nodded and placed the blue crystal in the center of the stage. The blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. He activated the interface, the rune formula unfolded in his mind, and entered the code with flying fingers. "Generals, this is an infinite loop quantum field, extracting 0-point energy from the void and self-sustaining output. After the shield is upgraded, it not only blocks the cannons, but also swallows enemy fire and transforms itself. The output can reach 10 times the original." The demonstration started, and in the holographic simulation, a virtual patrol ship was injected with blue crystal pulses, the energy curve skyrocketed, and the shield wall expanded like a living thing. The simulated rebel bombardment poured down, the red light was swallowed up, and the rebound wave swept away the enemy ship group like a tsunami. The top management whispered, and Iron Arm's eyes lit up. "Oh my God, this can reverse the border. Deploy immediately." "Wang Jing, you coordinate the fleet upgrade." "Jiwei, intelligence shows that you have an inside line, use it to pass false news and mislead Iron Arm." Wang Jing smiled and turned to Huang Yi. "Huang Yi, you will lead the upgrade project. I will mobilize resources to ensure that each ship is online within 24 hours. Her eyes were warm, and the efficiency of the intelligence officer made the conference hall buzz. Jiwei nodded and grabbed the data tablet. I sneaked back to the border, disguised as a rebel deserter, and spread false information saying that the blueprint was ruined and we were in chaos internally. That lunatic Iron Claw will take the bait. The deployment was in full swing. Huang Yi personally climbed into the Silver Eagle's energy cabin. The blue crystal was embedded in the core and the blue light spread along the pipeline. The whole ship vibrated, the engine hummed like a new life, and the shield curve soared from 15% to 800%. Uncle Lee wiped his sweat at the side. Boy, this feels like a rebirth. The border vanguard has arrived, with 20 rebel warships, led by Iron Claw's Lieutenant Shadow Wolf. Intelligence said he is Iron Claw's enemy, but loyal. Huang Yi put on the interface and predicted the battlefield with the runes in his mind. We'll see. Let's go to the border and operate the upgraded fleet ourselves. The Silver Eagle took the lead, and 10 upgraded patrol ships took off like a group of Silver Eagles and headed towards the border asteroid belt. The void is like a battlefield, and the red dot of the rebel vanguard is approaching. Shadow Wolf's ship shouts in the communication, Federation remnants, surrender. The energy crisis will destroy you. Laser cannons poured down like rain, and red light cut through the darkness. The first cool point breaks out. Huang Yi shouted from the bridge, everyone is in position. The energy field is fully open. Blue crystal pulses rushed into the fleet system, the shield wall rose like blue mist, swallowing the bombardment, and the feedback wave counterattacked like a tide. The Silver Eagle led the charge, Huang Yi controlled the auxiliary turret, and the rune tracks flashed in his mind, aim at their particle nodes, the 5 ships on the left wing, crossfire. The gunfire fired a salvo, the upgraded laser was wrapped in blue light, accurately penetrated the enemy shield, the rebel ship's engine exploded, and the 5 ships sank in a chain of fireballs. Shadow Wolf roared, impossible. How do you have such energy? Huang Yi sneered, because we have a future. The fleet swept across like a giant beast, devouring the enemy fire, and the strength of the backing increased. The rebel vanguard collapsed, and the border crisis was resolved in a battle. Huang Yi clenched his fists, feeling as refreshed as a torrent of energy, from an engineer who protected his homeland to a leader who decided the world in one battle. This growth made him feel boundless and confident. In the aftermath of the battlefield, Wang Jing's communication rang. Huang Yi, great job. Jiwei's false information has been transmitted, and Iron Claw fell into the trap. He thought our weakness was exposed, and was gathering the main force to ambush the central supply line. But I monitored an abnormality. Shadow Wolf's remaining ships were not completely destroyed. 3 ships circled behind, and the energy wave was distorted, like the crystals of Iron Claw. Huang Yi's heart tightened, and the rune gold finger scanned the data on the screen. Ambush prediction: the rebels were ambushing behind the meteorite cloud on the supply line. 3 residual ships were disguised as neutral merchant ships, and Shadow Wolf personally controlled the distortion cannon, aiming at the fleet rearguard. Wang Jing, the entire ship is on alert. They are going to ambush, I predicted it. The runes show that the node of the distortion field is at the core of the clouds. The high-level iron arm ordered from the center, Huang Yi, lead the team to counterattack. Capture the Shadow Wolf and force out the Iron Claw's weakness. The second cool point comes. The Silver Eagle turned sideways, and Huang Yi personally drove the engineering robotic arm out of the cabin. The blue crystal energy source was injected into the arm control, and the quantum claws stretched out like a giant beast. Uncle Lee, cover fire. Wang Jing, hack into their camouflage signal. The mechanical arm ejected into the void, the meteorite cloud surrounded it like mist, and the red light of the distortion cannon flickered faintly. A sinister smile came from Shadow Wolf's communication eavesdropping. Federation fool, you took the bait. The distortion field is locked and your defenders will be blown up. The red wave curved and struck directly at the rear of the fleet. The runes in Huang Yi's mind rotated, predicting the curved trajectory. Flick left, the energy field swallows it. The blue wall opened, swallowing the red wave, and the feedback wave rushed back to the clouds, exposing the 3 remaining ships. Shadow Wolf cursed, how to see through. Huang Yi pushed forward, the mechanical arm rushed to the lead ship like lightning, the quantum claws scratched the particle shield, the cutting laser injected reverse pulses, the blueprint countered the distortion field, and the crystal nodes exploded due to overload. The enemy ship trembled, and Shadow Wolf's cockpit was exposed. Huang Yi smashed open the hatch with a claw, and the mechanical arm stretched in and pulled him out of the void. Surrender, Shadow Wolf. We are fully aware of Iron Claw's betrayal. Shadow Wolf was captured, his face was livid, and he gasped, You know the twisting rune? Iron Claw will not let you go, he is the real successor. The federal soldiers picked up the prisoners from the auxiliary boat, and Wang Jing's voice came from the communication excitedly, Huang Yi, the capture was successful. The top brass was full of praise, and now the rebels are in chaos. Jiwei's false intelligence made Iron Claw split his troops, and we won the border. When they returned to the Silver Eagle, the lights on the bridge were warm, and Uncle Li handed over the hot coffee. Boy, you have turned from a stupid young man who protects your homeland into a leader. The Federation owes you a great favor for this battle. Huang Yi smiled, and his heart changed like a steady blue light. In the past, he just wanted to keep the light of the Green Star, but now, the leader's responsibility is as broad as the Sea of Stars, not only to protect, but also to lead everyone to reverse the crisis. Wang Jing approached and patted him on the shoulder. Huang Yi, it's great to have you in the team. Jiwei has sneaked back safely, the false information has taken effect, and Iron Claw's assembly has been delayed. Jiwei's image appeared, grinning, Brother, you did a great job. But be careful, Iron Claw has taken action himself. The three of them sat around the rest area, steaming coffee. Wang Jing approached Huang Yi and whispered, From picking up fragments and ruins to becoming famous in one battle, you have changed, but your heart to protect your homeland has not changed. Huang Yi shook her hand in return, as warm as an energy cycle. Wang Jing, Jiwei, thank you. Without a team, I am still the guy who works hard on the machinery. Jiwei smiled, let's carry it together, our interstellar home, we will protect it. But an original twist comes suddenly. The red light of the holographic screen flashed, and Iron Claw's emergency communication, Huang Yi, bad news. Shadow Wolf confessed, Iron Claw used the prisoners as bait, and personally led the main force to raid the central energy station. His super particle cannon array was in place, the twisted runes were strengthened, and the target was directed at the headquarters. Victory is in sight, but the final showdown cannot be avoided. Huang Yi stood up with a firm look in his eyes. General, let's go. The blue crystal is in hand, and the reversal starts from now on. The Silver Eagle's engine buzzed and headed towards the center. The final climax of the interstellar storm was about to begin. The engine of the Silver Eagle hummed like the roar of rebirth, cutting through the green orbit of the central galaxy. The Federal fleet was arrayed like a galaxy, and the blue crystal energy sources of dozens of upgraded warships pulsed and flickered, illuminating the originally dim void. Huang Yi stood in the center of the bridge, holding the console with both hands, and the remaining warmth of the blue crystal was still faintly warm in his palms. He glanced at the holographic screen. The red dots of the rebels' main force were approaching the energy station like cancer. Iron Claw's super particle cannon array was in place, distorting the red light and distorting the space. The preheating hum of the muzzle came through the sensor, like the low breathing of a beast. Wang Jing was beside him, her short hair swaying under the light, and her fingers flying on the intelligence screen. Huang Yi, Iron Claw's headquarters is hidden in the meteorite fortress behind the energy station, and the protective shield is an enhanced version of his twisted runes. But our blue crystal technology has been deployed across the board, and the fleet's output has increased dramatically, swallowing their artillery fire and transforming it into a counterattack. Wang Jing, give the order to the whole team, fully open the energy field, attack the headquarters. Huang Yi shouted, his voice as decisive as an order. He felt a warm current surge in his chest. From the stunned Qing who touched the rune fragment to now leading the team to reverse the interstellar crisis, his growth was as sustainable as blue crystal. Jiwei's image emerged from the side screen. He had sneaked back to the border to disguise himself, and the scars on his face were even more tenacious under the red light. Huang Yi, my inside line is in place. The false intelligence caused Iron Claw to divide its troops. He thought the center was empty. I will cut off the power of the artillery array from the inside. Be careful, his crystal implant can control hidden runes. It depends on you to reverse the situation of the battle. The Federal fleet pounced like a giant eagle, and the blue light energy field expanded into an invisible giant net, swallowing up the particle cannon of the rebel vanguard. The red light was transformed, and the rebound wave swept through like a tsunami, defeating 5 enemy ships. Fireballs rolled in the void, and debris fell like a meteor shower. Huang Yi personally controlled the Silver Eagle's auxiliary system, and the golden finger flashed in his mind, left-wing attack. Paralyze their protection, blue crystal pulse injection, reverse the distortion field. The energy wave burst out, the blue light collided with the red network, and the particle shield of the Iron Claw headquarters hummed and collapsed, revealing a crack. The shouts of rebel soldiers came from the communication eavesdropping. The shield is broken. The Federation has new weapons. Retreat to the fortress. Huang Yi, the entrance to the headquarters is open. Wang Jing shouted. With the laser rifle in her hand, she jumped towards the launch cabin, her eyes as sharp as stars. I will lead the commando team to infiltrate, and Ji Wei will respond internally. We will go straight to the core of the artillery array. You drive the engineering robot arm and destroy the rune tower from the outside. That's where the Iron Claw's hiding place is. Huang Yi nodded, and his inner monologue flashed. In the past, I could only repair machinery, but now, this is my battlefield. Protecting my homeland is no longer a dream. He rushed to the hangar and jumped into the giant engineering mechanical arm. The blue crystal energy source was injected into the arm control, and the quantum claws buzzed and stretched like a giant beast awakening. The mechanical arm ejected into the void, and the gray and black outline of the meteorite fortress hit the face. The twisted rune tower stood in the center, 100 meters high, and the red light pulsed like a heart. The rebel mecha group rushed towards them, the sickle arms fired laser rain, and the heat wave distorted the air. Huang Yi felt that the outer shell of the mechanical arm was red, but the energy shield swallowed everything, and the feedback wave rushed back, paralyzing 3 mechas, and debris scattered everywhere. Inside the fortress, Wang Jing and the commandos sneaked in through the cracks, laser guns fired at the guards, and sparks illuminated the narrow passages. Ji Wei met from the inside, his shoulder injury had healed, and the laser cutter cut the power cord. Wang Jing, this way. The artillery array control room is 50 meters away, but Iron Claw's cronies are blocking the way. 5 heavy equipment, equipped with rune shields. Wang Jing dodged sideways and fired, hitting one person's joint. Ji Wei, go back. Huang Yi's blue crystal wave has been introduced, weakening their shields. Let's join forces to reverse this hellish place. Outside, Huang Yi's robotic arm approaches the rune tower, the claw arm grabs the tower wall, and the cutting laser injects pulses. Goldfinger awakens, touches the red light rune, and the lines in his mind spin. The hidden rune of Iron Claw is a variant of the entanglement lock, hiding the overload vulnerability. Reversing it can paralyze the entire castle. Blue light rushed into the tower, the red network twisted and collapsed, and the red light on the top of the tower dimmed. Iron Claw's roar exploded from the communication. Boy, do you know my secret? Come on, let's face off. The central hatch of the fortress slid open, and Iron Claw appeared, a tall figure. The twisted crystals on his arms flashed red, the energy whip stretched like a living snake, and the red mist around him distorted the space. A burst of excitement. Huang Yi jumped out of the mechanical arm and rushed into the cabin. The blue crystal energy source buzzed in his belt, and the quantum field surrounded him like armor. Iron Claw, your betrayal is over. Are you an old general of the Federation, selling your homeland for power? He yelled, and punched out his fist wrapped in blue light. Iron Claw sneered, the energy whip whipped out, and the red light curved its trajectory and pierced Huang Yi's heart. A heat wave hits the face, and the air twists like fire, but the quantum field swallows the whip. The feedback wave rushes back to the crystal, the Iron Claw arms tremble, and the red light flashes overload. Impossible. How do you break my runes? Iron Claw roared, summoning the red mist cannon formation with his backhand, and the particle wave poured out like a tidal wave. Huang Yi's golden fingers are fully open in his mind, and the runes are interpreted like lightning. The core of the crystal is a twisted cycle, which can be overloaded and self-destructed by injecting infinite blue fields. He charged forward, the energy source pulsed and the blue light spread like a giant net, swallowing the red wave. The moment the transformation was completed, the rebound was 10 times more powerful. The blue tide swept through the iron claws like a tsunami, the crystal cracked, and the red light collapsed and dissipated like blood mist. Iron Claw staggered back, his face distorted. I am the successor. The energy is unlimited. I want to reshape the interstellar world. But Huang Yi didn't give him a chance. Quantum Fist hit his chest directly, the blue crystal energy seeped in, and detonated overload. The Iron Claw screamed, the crystal exploded with fireballs, the entire fortress shook, the super particle cannon array collapsed in a chain, the rebel fleet's defenses were completely paralyzed, federal artillery fire poured in, and the red dots withered like fireworks. The cabin was filled with smoke and dust. Huang Yi gasped and stood firm, feeling power pouring into his chest like a sea of stars. This duel is not luck, but the ultimate growth. From the engineer's caution to the hero's courage, he reverses Iron Claw's conspiracy and defeats the darkness of betrayal. Warmth surges in my heart, the green star of my home will be worry-free from now on. Wang Jing and Jiwei rushed in, their laser guns still smoking. Wang Jing patted him on the shoulder, her eyes sparkling. Huang Yi, you win. Iron Claw's headquarters is finished, the rebels collapsed. Jiwei smiled, brother, this blow is an interstellar legend. The war situation reversed like a tide, the federal fleet swept away the remaining enemies, the blue light of the energy station was rekindled, and the central galaxy was brightly lit. The crisis was resolved, the power outage on the border colony star became history overnight, and the fleet was revived like a new life. When he returned to the headquarters, there was a wave of cheers. Chief General Iron Arm personally awarded the medal, a blue crystal-encrusted interstellar hero medal, which was hung on Huang Yi's chest. The top brass whispered, Huang Yi, you became famous in one battle. From a young engineer to a savior, your blueprint saved the Federation. The soldiers gathered around and applauded thunderously. Uncle Lee wiped away tears. Boy, you gave us hope. Refreshing. Point 2 is like the aftertaste of the climax. Huang Yi stood on the award podium, looking at the sea of stars, feeling satisfied like a complete energy cycle. Wang Jing was beside him, holding his hand, as warm as the sunset at home. Huang Yi, we did it. From the encounter on the patrol ship to the current reconstruction, we have walked together. Jiwei has returned to the border with honor, and his position as intelligence officer has been upgraded. His image emerged, grinning, brothers, our home is safe. I will go inspect the new colony. Thank you for helping me. A few months later, the wheat fields of Green Star Home were golden under the lights powered by blue crystals. Huang Yi and Wang Jing walked side by side on the field ridge. The setting sun shed warm light and the air was as sweet as honey. They worked together to rebuild. The blueprint technology is extended to every colonial star, the energy is sustainable, and the crisis is forever. Huang Yi turned to look at her, and his inner reflections receded like the tide. From the moment I touched the rune, I thought it was luck. After experiencing the storm of infiltration, fighting, and betrayal, I learned to grow, not simply to be strong, but to share the responsibility of home with my partners. This interstellar journey has transformed me from a boy into a hero, but the most precious thing is this perfection. Wang Jing smiled and leaned on his shoulder. Huang Yi, let's guard the future together. The sea of stars is boundless, the legend of heroes continues in the lights, and satisfaction is like the eternal blue light.